Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Hot Girl Agenda stream and podcast. We got some really cool stuff going on today, but I'll just do like a little kind of introduction. So if you haven't tuned in before, obviously we only had one episode. This is volume 2. What I wanted to do, what the format was supposed to be, was me recapping events in the news and doing analysis and having like a guest panel and stuff, and doing interviews and things like that. And I wanted to do it for 3 hours every Wednesday, 6 to 9. And last week's was really, really fun. Thank you guys for all tuning in and stuff. But this week I realized I was so busy this week, and I realized having 2 jobs and trying to come up with 3 hours of programming a week is a recipe for burnout. So I'm not going to be doing a 3-hour stream every week. I'll be doing a 2-hour stream from 6 to 8 p.m. So that's the only thing that's changing about the format of the show, really. I will be doing like bonus streams and things like that when I have time. But truthfully, like, I'm a working class person, man. Like I don't have time for a lot of stuff that I want to do because I'm busy surviving in this stupid ass world. But I think you can relate to that, because if not, then why are you here, right? But let's just go ahead and talk about, we're going to do like a little kind of recap of like the events that I want to talk about really quick. And then we're going to have our first guest on, and it's Brandon Buchanan from Metro Atlanta DSA and also from Not Safe for Wonks. So we'll have him on in a minute. And after that, we'll also have Aaron Thorpe, Posada's Trap God. You've probably seen him on Twitter. But yeah, let's talk about, oh God. Okay, like let's talk about the important things first. I would like to talk about the last episode of The Boys, because it's extremely important to me. And I just want to say, y'all, like, if you're not watching The Boys already, you should be. It's an amazing show. If you just want to have your worldview reinforced and talk about like the military industrial complex and talk about misogyny and talk about racism and shit, it's pretty good. Yeah, I don't want to do any spoilers though. Like, so I think I will probably do like a separate stream about just The Boys, because like I love the show so much, but I just watched it last night. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Anyway, let's see. Oh yeah. So what's on the agenda tonight? So tonight we're going to be talking about Metro Atlanta DSA. We're going to be talking about me and Brandon's past year, which we were both officers, executive officers on the steering committee. So we're going to talk about our like highlights. We're going to play Graduation by Vitamin C. We're just going to have a good time talking about it. And then afterwards, we're going to talk about what's going on with Louisville and the protests there, and kind of a short history of policing and segregation in Louisville. And we'll be talking with Aaron about that. So thank you for tuning in. But yeah, I want to say like, okay, like I've been putting, I didn't want to like be another person to talk about this because I know everyone's kind of over it already, but the debates, let's talk about the debates. They're not good, folks. It's not good. I truthfully, like, okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I did not watch the debates. Like I tuned in for like 10 minutes, and in an act of self-care, of radical self-care, I said, I am not doing this year. I am going to play Fortnite. I'm going to hang out with my cat. I'm going to have sex with my boyfriend. And I'm just going to have a better night than what my comrades want to do, which is to punish themselves with watching Joe Biden and Donald Trump speak at each other, which is fine. But like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of shit posters, a lot of leftist shit posters get trapped in this cycle of just like wanting to do things for the content. And I'm just here to tell you that you don't have to do that to yourself. If you need to like take a break from posting, if you just can't handle something, don't do it. Don't force yourself to be uncomfortable unnecessarily. Save the discomfort for something that matters, because the debates don't matter. You don't have to put yourself in that headspace for no reason. And it would be for no reason, because we all know these people are trash. Trump is trash. Biden is trash. Save yourself the brain cells. Save yourself the potential for relapse. And just like chill, take a bath, read a book, do anything else. That's my advice. And I might go back on this. Like I might in a couple of days be like, oh yeah, I'll totally watch the next round of debates because I self-sabotage, and it's okay to admit that to yourself. But don't think you're doing it to like glean anything that you haven't already gleaned. You're not gonna get anything out of it. Because you're all self-aware people. You know what's wrong with this country. You know it deep down, and you don't need to reinforce it every single time you log on. So just fucking do anything else, man. Like it's pretty cool doing stuff unrelated to politics. Go watch The Boys. Take that time, catch up. They're like, the episodes are long. They're like an hour, but they're so good. Carl Urban, he's the best. Go Carl. He'll be on the stream next week. I'm just kidding. Don't spread that. I'm just joking. Okay, so I think I had planned like more of an intro, but I really like, again, 3 hours of streaming content. I spent a lot of time researching for the topics we're going to talk about. So I didn't do a lot of planning out what I was going to say at the top of the episode. So that's my bad. But obviously the stream is a baby. It's my project. I'm getting better about talking about like to myself because I don't have a co-host. So I'm just kind of getting better at filling time and talking to myself and just kind of juggling the comments. So if you comment something and I want to put it up, I'll show your comments. But yeah, so I think I'm going to go ahead and bring Brandon in a little bit early. And then I wish I had vitamin C queued up. This is why I need a producer. If you guys know anybody that wants to produce a stream for $30 a month, because that's what the Patreon's at. Then let me know. Hit me up on Twitter at Island Goth. But I'm going to go ahead and bring in my comrade Brandon from Not Safe for Wonks and from MADSA DSA. Brandon, what's up? Oh, you're on mute, babe.
What's up? How are you doing?
I'm good.
Obviously, the first thing that I did as soon as you said that you needed somebody to do this was the first thing I did was I pulled up Graduation.
Yes.
Because that was just the way to go. And we can play it in the background. Or we can talk over it, whatever.
We can talk over
of course, it. This will get us copyright stricken on
you think so?
Probably. I assume they have like killer robots that control it. But as long as we're talking over it, maybe I don't know.
Maybe it's okay. Or maybe we should just stop at like 10 seconds in and like it'll be okay.
We can get away with anything. And that was that was one of the things I wanted to actually talk to you about. Because as I was listening to you talk about juggling many things as a person who's a certified juggler.
Yeah.
One of the things that's really cool is people will help you if you ask.
It's true. I am gonna just stop this video though because it is actually kind of making my ADD go crazy, and that's just a self-diagnosis though. So
yeah. people will help if you ask, and I think that's like the number one theme of our service to the chapter this year.
Yep.
It's very tough, but also if you can take a little time to search for assistance, people will come out of the woodwork. I mean, when we started a year ago, I mean, we just had a lot thrown in our hands.
Oh, yeah.
All of us like lost our damn minds.
It's easy to though, because it's like you are like, even if you are like better prepared than we were, I feel like it's just like you're just chum for the machine in the beginning, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess we should tell people that don't know us, like what we're talking about. So Brandon and I, as I said in the introduction, Brandon and I were executive officers, which I'm so glad we're not called that anymore. I'm so glad they're not called that. But we were executive officers for the steering committee for Metro Atlanta Democratic Socialists of America.
Yeah.
And we're finishing out our term. We're handing over the keys to the next steering committee. Brandon and I decided to move forward in different ways with the organization and not do leadership for another year. Because folks, it's hard. it is hard being responsible for things. And as someone who is like a lifetime fuck up, it was a lot. It was a lot, you know, like I was not a responsibility, like management, administer anything. And we all kind of just had to lean into it. And Brandon, yeah, is there anything you wanted to say, like to introduce what we're about to talk about? Like,
I mean, yeah. One of the things that's really interesting to me, and I think this is something that everybody like watching can take away, like people will put you into roles because they see things for you or they have a mental image of you that maybe doesn't always reflect the person that you are. And as you get more experience and you get more comfortable, you kind of find yourself slipping into this role that other people have built for you.
mm-hmm.
Like who in the chapter would think of you as a lifetime fuck up without you actually saying so on a stream? Because you're now like kind of like the mom of the chapter. When people do stuff, they're like,
I am.
Rara, right? Rara's on top of the mountain, and you go to her, and you do know how to do shit now.
Yeah.
So
I do. It's nice. It's like I feel capable now, but I would not have felt capable without your help and without the other executives' help. As much as we like, you know, and that's the thing too, is it really did test my ability to work with other people, which I always thought of myself as a great collaborator. But it's like in politics, in any kind of community organization, you do have to juggle a lot of personalities. And it's not like your job. It's not like other volunteer positions sometimes, like being in DSA. It's challenging because it is a truly like a democratic thing. Like, so you are dealing with people that come in, you know, I'm not gonna say like off the streets, but it's like they're trying to find a political home, right? And you got to be the one to facilitate that and nurture that. And that is it is a very heavy responsibility at times.
Whenever I think about that, I think of just how I started. And I mean, I kind of just literally came on off the streets, went to the bar, went to a meeting, and people just sort of gravitated to me being smart and cool and good looking. And something similar happened to you, and they were like, "Hey, you look nice. We're both tall. You've got long bones, so you should be in charge of everything." So
you have pretty hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, okay, so the story of my recruitment, and Brandon, I don't know how you got recruited, but I'll just touch on it really quick.
You haven't heard it.
So okay. Yeah. Well, okay, let me tell you my really quick story of recruitment is, so I got a call from this guy out of nowhere who, his name was Councilman Khalid, and he was like, you know, you'd be great on the executive committee. You know, I was bringing it up, who's going to run, and a lot of people like were talking about you, and I was like, of course, in my head, in my naive head, I was like, oh my god, me? Could I really? And he was like, yeah, I'm asking you, like, you should step up, you should do it. It's like a once a week commitment. It's just like, it's not that much. It's fine. You want to? I mean, actually,
he didn't know.
Like he said it was a once a month commitment. Because, and he didn't know how much it would be, but he did, he was like, yeah, it's like once a month. We have meetings like once a month. It's fine. And I was like, well, that doesn't seem that bad. And at the time I was like, I had 2 jobs. I was in a long distance relationship and I was going back and forth with that. And I was like, I can handle this. And I quickly found out I could not handle it. It took a long time for me to be able to handle it. But anyway, that's my origin story with DSA.
I was between jobs. I was working like freelance, and I have one of those freelance jobs where you get paid a lot, but you don't get paid often. So like I got like a few $1,000s for a job, and then I was waiting like 3 months for another one.
Oh shit.
So I just kind of thought, well, you know, it's a year and I really want to do myself. I want to focus on myself. And people just started recruiting me. And my plan was I was going to like blend in and just kind of show up and do stuff over the course of maybe a year. And then maybe at the end of the year, you know, come do some shit. But like Barbara, who's the very nice old lady at the chapter, and we have a lot of them, started asking me, "Hey, you should go for executive committee." And then Wendell, who's one of the older black fellows, was like, "Yeah, we really need you. You got to do this." And so, and a couple other people also like approached me and was like, "Yeah, you should go for it." So I was thinking, hey, I can probably integrate this into my work. I was at the time like super broke, trying to hang on to my shit, didn't have good internet, but I was like, yeah, I can pull off like a meeting every couple weeks.
Yeah, it seems like nothing when you look at it on paper, right? Like,
yeah. But what had happened was it was just the world of chaos as soon as like we got in there. There was the Debs dinner and then the Bernie stuff and then COVID. Yeah. So it was just.
So the Douglas Debs dinner, by the way, is our yearly chapter fundraiser. And it's like a big deal. It's like this, it's a really fun, like fundraising event. Everyone gets dressed up. It's really nice, but it's a lot of work.
And for storytelling purposes, that was where all the money for the chapter came from.
Mm-hmm.
Like we would suck up to all these, grizzled union folks. They all have jobs. We don't. And they would come in and we'd hold a nice dinner somewhere and we'd make some trophies and give 2 or 3 trophies out. And we'd also like make a program and sell ad space in the program. And that was basically what paid for the chapter from year to year. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're watching this and your brain works, you're thinking, this is something that's not sustainable during the COVID era. Wouldn't you guys go broke? And you're fucking right.
And you can't get together with anybody. You can't have like in-person fundraisers because it's too dangerous.
Your in-person union dinners are just over with until maybe next year. And we put it off until next year. So maybe it'll come back. But like one of the things we had to do was like completely revamp the financial status and where the money was coming from and get it from like the membership and from other means of fundraising. But like we did it very hard. You were like the fundraising guru.
That's why I was tapped. I wasn't like, that's why I was like tapped for leadership basically. Cause they were like, you like fundraising, right? And I was like, yeah, I like fundraising. And they're like, would you also like to make decisions for the whole chapter? I'm like, which I didn't know at the time that's what it was going to be. But I was like, yeah, like, oh, well, I already wanted to focus on fundraising. So this will just make it easier. It didn't. But it was not like because anyone stopped me from fundraising. It was just a timing thing, like I just didn't have time to put together anything. Because it's like what you don't realize when you step into roles like this, in any kind of like centralized org, is that you're doing a lot of administrative stuff that nobody ever sees. And the only other people that really appreciate it are the other nerds on the steering committee with you. So it's like, it really like felt kind of crappy sometimes, because you're just like, I'm not really doing like the work that I want to be doing all the time. And it can be like really challenging but it's like, it's one of those things that like somebody has to do the work that sucks.
Right.
Like,
and one of the things that if you take this away, don't think just because like, oh, we're good looking and can talk well. So we can't do this. Like literally anybody, because I would say like 80% of this is like literally showing up, listening to people and passing notes. Mm-hmm. Like just making
and following through on something you said you would do, like sending an email.
Yeah, literally it's stuff that's just making sure that you're kind of coordinated and on the same page with other people. Mm-hmm. So even if you're not a good talker, not a good communicator, slovenly, lame, unfunny, just whatever personal insecurity you've got, you can do this. It's not super hard.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of blocking aside, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours a week at minimum.
Yeah.
Maybe like 10 to be like good. Really more like 15. It creeps up sometimes.
It does. Yeah,
it's something anybody can do.
But it also is like, so, I mean, I realize like this organizational kind of talk is like kind of, it might be boring for people that aren't organizing. And if you're not organizing,
what are you doing?
You need to.
Yeah.
Like you need to be doing something. And like, you can do organizing anywhere, wherever you're at. Like, there is something for you to do. There is so much work to be done. At this point, there's no excuse for anybody to not be putting in just a couple hours a week, you know, to be like helping with whatever it is that you are passionate about. It doesn't have to be DSA.
Can I add a quick note just for like, if you are a person who's a doom scroller and you're on Twitter and you're feeling depressed about things all the time, consider the idea that just for your mental health, and even in your worst fantasy of bad things happening next year, you want to be, you want to know like 15 people who know what you look like. If you need help with something. And I've said this on like a previous podcast episode, but in fact, I think it was my speech when Bernie lost. Join literally any organization and show your face. Because that is a lot more valuable just from a personal selfish perspective than it is for you to be a poster with like, 50 followers and you're pissed off and quote tweeting everybody all the time, or you're in dimensions fucking yelling at people. Go find a task to do with other people. And you find some help along the way. Like I'm moving tomorrow and like 3 people volunteered to help me move. I didn't even ask.
I was gonna come over before work too.
There you go.
And just help you with a little couple boxes or something.
Hell yeah. So,
yeah. It's also just like, to your point, and maybe this is selfish, but it's like when my more liberal friends are like, there's something happens in the news and they're like, I feel like, what do you do to feel better about this whole world coming down and crashing around us? Like, what do I do? And I'm like, organize. Yeah. Like join. What are you passionate about? Abortion? Go find a grassroots organization to work with and pass out flyers or sign, even signing petitions. I know like there's a lot of, dumb shit about petitions, but it is good for information gathering. Yeah. And it's good for analysis. So even signing petitions is good.
Even you've seen 20 petitions, go make a petition and talk to the people that fill out the petition. One of the things that like I think people who like post online or watch podcasts, content, all that good stuff, you don't understand like how useful your specific posting skills actually can be in the real world. Like we were on a call with Coalition for People's Agenda, which is like a very large civil rights organization in Atlanta. It's a little older Black libs. When people on Twitter talk about the elders, they mean Coalition for People's Agenda. So they were there and they're literally holding the meeting and they're practically in tears looking for somebody who knows how to use an iPad to do like, poll monitoring and stuff like that. Or, the Citizens Review Board, they were like, we really need some people who are under the age of 40 to go and drop by that. Even if you don't want to join an organization right out the gate, go find an activist calendar in your city. Like literally type in activist calendar plus your city. And we're lucky to have like Aroma Atlanta, which it's not really like a real organization. It's just like a list of things that are happening in town. And it's very easy to find those if you're in a major like metro area. And it's a way to like plug in and you meet people literally all the time and people will introduce themselves to you and put itchy paper in your hands and you go home and you feel like you were an important part of something, which is cool.
Yeah. And it's like that. And this is just like, it sounds like when you hear stories about infighting and stuff in organizations and you're like, oh, well, why the hell would I ever want to be a part of that? It's because like a lot of infighting just ends up coming from people just caring so much about the org and then getting like crazy invested in it and like kind of losing perspective a little bit about like what's really important. But the thing is like, I could not imagine going back to not organizing. Like it is actually like the only thing that makes me feel better about the world around me is the fact that I am actively doing something to contribute to a better future. Even if it's an uphill battle, even if it's really fucking hard, like the fact that I am doing anything makes me so much more, not at peace, but just more, I'm taking it with grace, basically. And it's like, I understand people's situations are really different. You know, I don't know what your organizing capability is, or maybe you live in a really small city or a conservative city or whatever. There's a way to plug in. There's a way to, and use being online as a way to plug in, because that's how I find everything. If I need freaking anything, I go on Twitter and I just ask. You know, I go on Reddit, I ask. I go on Facebook, I ask. Use your networks to your advantage, because there's somebody in your network that can get you the thing that you need. There's someone in your network that can pass that petition on for you. There's someone in your network that can make a donation or something. Like, just start talking. You got to start talking to people. Like, that's it. And I know it's like everybody is antisocial as fuck and super online, but it's like, you got to practice those skills at some point. Why not start now? Why not do it for a cause that you really care about? I'm really just a big proponent of this, because it's like, I am, you know, when things happen in the news, when shit gets really bad, I know that I'll be okay. Yeah. Even if I don't fucking feel like it, even if materially I'm not going to be okay, I'm like, I know that I can handle it, because I have been doing stuff. Like, I have been contributing to the solution for it. And also that I have friends that care about the same exact shit that I do. So it's like, talk to your friends that care about the same stuff, and like, get them to work with you. Organizing is always better with friends. Like, but yeah, I don't want to like just, you know, lecture people like, you got to organize, but it's like, it is kind of the thing that separates progressives and leftists from liberals, is the fact that we actually are on the ground doing stuff, and contributing. And so you don't want to be a giant lib, do you?
What if your contribution is you answer those emails where Obama says, no matter what you've done, you haven't done enough? Open that wallet.
Obama is very disappointed in you.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed in you personally. Get the money out. You better have it. Let's go. Yeah, it's.
I would like to talk about that for a second, because okay, yeah,
I'm here. It's your time.
Yeah, because like, I mean, the DSA stuff, it's interesting to us, but it might not be very interesting to anybody else. We'll see. We'll get back to the Obama thing afterwards, but let's like wrap up this. Let's do superlatives. No, I was kidding.
Oh yeah, no, let's actually do superlatives.
Oh, okay. Most gorgeous eyes.
In this stream or the chapter, either way it's me, but what are we registering?
No, I don't want to do chapter stuff. I do want to. Okay, let's just say this. What would you say is your greatest achievement of organizing with MADSA in the past year?
That's an actually good question, because it doesn't require me to thunder dunk anybody.
We're doing Kazi vibes only.
Yeah, let's do greatest achievement, and I won't say greatest failure, but biggest opportunity that's been left on the table for the next people to come in and take. Biggest success, you know, because I didn't get a full term as chair, I kind of got in and had like 4 months to complete someone else's term. Mm-hmm. So I really wanted to do things that were really impactful. So, and these things are kind of a tie, but I put together that defunding the police talk-in at Candler Park,
Piedmont Park,
one of the parks. You were there. And I did a lot of the work. I did the flyer, I did the Facebook post, I did the coalition building, I got other people on board, I helped get the PA. I did all that in a week. And we went from an announcement on the Sunday to doing the event on the Saturday. And of course, like, we both remember that like the Ray Sharp Brooks stuff happened.
Yeah.
At the Wendy's that night, because I was actually over there with you when all that went down. But doing that and putting that together and reaching so many people who will never see at a Zoom meeting, right? Mm-hmm. Or on a Slack, but we're just regular people who wanted to come out to it. That was really cool. Yeah. And the other really cool thing was the Rent Relief fundraiser, because we put together 8 hours of programming and did like a whole telethon. And we raised like $4,000 or $5,000. We raised like a whole grip of money for rent relief in the area. And that was also really something really cool that we did. And I'm also proud of that one, because it was really collaborative. And so I was able to like teach other people how to do the stuff that I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the best thing to do because it can perpetuate itself.
Yeah.
What's your favorite accomplishment?
I think my favorite accomplishment in the past year was, I think it was back in January, we did a No War with Iran rally. And we worked with several organizations. We worked with PSL. We worked with, I think, people with Housing Justice League for some reason. And we worked with like a bunch of different community organizations to do this No War with Iran rally. And this is right after Trump's comments about the Iran deal. I think it's right after he backed out of the Iran deal. Yeah. So
that was after he blew up an Iranian general.
Yes.
That was actually the perpetuating incident there. And everybody thought, right. And that happened on my birthday. Everybody thought it was going to be World War III.
Yeah, that's why we had to throw that rally together like really quickly. I think we did it within like 2 or 3 weeks or something. And we did this rally and then we took to the streets in Atlanta and we took over an entire street. And it was so funny because like hardly any cops even showed up, like, and they didn't even try to stop us when we were in the street, like at all. And we marched for a good while. And we marched to the Georgia Tech, I think it was like the research building or something where they were doing like basically like drone research because they have a contract with military. So that was a really powerful feeling for me because that was the first time that I had to work with other organizations. And that was a really great collaborative feeling. And when we all showed up and we were all there with our banners and our signs and stuff, it was a really powerful feeling to see that the anti-war movement was like, you know, gaining traction again, because it really has not been, you know, I'm sure that there is anti-war actions happening all the time. It just never gets any mainstream press. It never gets the attention it deserves anymore. And at the Georgia Tech building, I did like a speech about imperialism and its effect, especially on Guam. And it was really emotional for me just because being from Guam, like we are in the heart of, I mean, it's so far outside of what people think of as the empire, but it's like we are the heart of empire there because it is so militarized and it is so like the local population is so impoverished and the military takes up like almost 30% of the island. And, you know, indigenous peoples are like impoverished, and we have some of the highest recruiting rates in the country. Actually, a lot of the territories do. Us in American Samoa and Puerto Rico, but we don't have the same rights as territories. So I spoke about that, and I spoke about how it was so fucked up that my indigenous like brothers and sisters were being recruited to go kill people in foreign countries and basically perpetuate the same violence that we had experienced by the US military and by imperialism. So that was a really important moment for me. And it also just really solidified in my mind, like, this is the work that I want to do. These are the people I want to surround myself with. I could never go back to not being involved somehow, you know, in any way, shape, or form. So again, like I'm encouraging people to do this because it's like, if you're mad about it, the only way to deal with it is by action. It's the only healthy way to deal with it. Otherwise, it all just gets turned inward, and you don't want that. It's unhealthy.
Yeah. And in terms of things that we want to do next year that are left as opportunities, we've got to take the whole city. Yes. We're very much an East Atlanta organization right now. So it's just going to be, and it's not going to be like hard. I don't think it's going to be hard work that's grinding or anything. Mm-hmm. It's just literally like coming up with fun things to do that that are safe. Yeah, that involves the whole rest of the city and isn't like these Zoom meetings.
Yeah, but Zoom meetings kill me.
Yeah, stuff that's just casual and that a regular person can go to and be a part of. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just going to blow the membership up and give us maybe more ability to do more bigger things. Yeah. Once we get over a couple of these humps, it's just smooth sailing. And we've done so much of that foundational work, like you said, in places that like everybody's not going to see or notice for a while. But that's kind of how it works sometimes.
Yeah, also there's a couple good campaigns that Metro Atlanta DSA is doing right now. We some very enterprising newer members got together and are working on a defund Atlanta PD campaign. It's called DARK, Defund APD Refund Communities. And you can follow them on Twitter. I think it's just DARCATL.
Yeah.
And they're awesome. They're really, really dedicated organizers. And we need bodies. We need people that are willing to just kind of come out to these events and hang, you know?
And by the way, they're doing an event right now.
Yeah, they're on a competing stream with us right now. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have them on next week.
We'll bring them on later.
Yeah, we'll bring them on.
But yeah, it's really rad. And I'll just say, just on a one-to-one level, like when I was like getting in here, you just were always grabbing me. You were always pulling me into stuff, which I always appreciated. Like, because just my personality is always like, if I want to like approach someone or something, I want to already have everything in place, and then just have like, okay, this is where you can jump in now that I've built this thing up. And it's rare to find someone that will see something that's kind of bare bones and will jump in and be like, I will work on this with you. And like over that entire year, you were like more than anybody, the person that would just proactively come to me when I didn't have shit and would just be like, yeah, I'll help you. Come on, let's do it. And it's something that I've just always appreciated. So I knew that when you needed a guest for this Twitch show, I was like, no problem.
I'll jump on that grenade.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
God, it's so painful. I know. No. No, it's cool. Like, yeah, I've always, I guess for doing like why we appreciate each other as comrades. I always appreciated your ability to kind of cut through the bullshit, and it inspired me to be more assertive in my organizing too. Because you do have an ability to, when people kind of like start focusing on the minutia that doesn't really matter and kind of getting like worked up on the details of stuff and like kind of sniping and stuff, you had the ability to be like, hey, can we focus? Matter. Like,
most
this doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it's like, and the thing is about you is like, when you say stuff like that, it's not because you're being dismissive. It's because like, you're like, hey, this doesn't matter. We're doing this other stuff and it needs attention. Yeah. So we need focus on that stuff. And I always just really appreciated that about you, because you did like talk me down off a ledge a couple times when I was just like at my wit's end with the situation or someone, you know, and I'd just be like, and you'd be like, hey, it doesn't matter. Like, it's fine. Like, and I was like, you know what? You're right. It's fine. And you have been a critical part of me, like being a more patient person and being more assertive. So thanks for that.
So we're both free. If you can imagine the Shawshank Redemption, both of us like in the rain, twirling our hands around. What are you doing? Because you talked about taking better care of yourself. Yes. How are you doing that this year?
Well, I'm taking advice from Mariah Parker, who we had on the show last week, who's the Athens Clarke County Commissioner. She is like, if you don't know who she is, she's amazing. She's like a PhD candidate. She's a hip hop artist. She is the county commissioner, and she's a dedicated grassroots organizer, among more things than that. And I was like, how do you deal with it all? And she's like, I just make self-care like a part of my schedule. Like it's literally like I block out time for reflection and relaxing and doing nothing and being unplugged. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm such a schedule person that I have to be like, I'm going to schedule an hour for self-care, or 30 minutes or 15 minutes, like depending on what my day is like. So that's my plan this upcoming year, is just to block out time to actually just relax and not do anything, like nothing, not even multitasking. So
your hour of self-care can be on Friday nights, Amazon, The Boys.
Yes.
Exactly. That'll be just perfect.
I don't want to give Jeff Bezos more money, but like it's worth it to have time, in my opinion.
Even if you've got to listen, if you have to bootleg it, it's fine.
I'm terrified of that, because my roommate years and years ago in Florida got a cease and desist for like downloading like Parks and Rec or something.
They're not. Oh, those cease and desists aren't real. I've got like 5 of them. They can't do anything.
Okay, but I am like the kind of person, like I got caught shoplifting like twice when I was like a teenager, and so I'm like terrified. Like, like they're gonna come for me. Like,
Low key.
I'm too scared to
Such
do
a
the legal.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking
How
boomer.
is it that you will like yell at a cop, but you will not pirate a movie?
Adrenaline's a weird thing. Also, I don't do too much yelling at cops these days. It's more just like avoiding eye contact and like screaming, like, just like very like vague, like protest stuff, into the ether. Not really directed at anybody. Like that's how I cope. But
I'm working on a video game. It's like a Stardew Valley style game. I'm doing like the comms. I'm not coding the game.
I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, absolutely not. That's too much work. But I am promoting the game, and the game is called The Promised Land. And if you go to like playthepromisedland.com, you'll see that it's like an MMO game, and it's been endorsed by Sunrise. So we haven't like rolled all the details of it of that endorsement out.
Cool.
But 60% of the money that goes into like the game goes directly to mutual aid and climate relief and education and stuff like that. And it's very rad. And we're going to start working on that like in the next week or so. You'll start seeing that online. And we made a bunch of banners and videos and cool stuff. It's a very nice, it's in alpha state right now. And we're hoping it'll be in beta like in March, April. And then it'll be like out like summer next year or sometime next year. So yeah, very excited about that. And we're going to have a whole community around updates and stuff like that.
Cool. I'm really I'm back into gamer culture. I'm really looking forward to playing some new video games. And also I'll probably have a PC that's capable of streaming in the next month. So maybe we can do a live playthrough or something.
That's correct. That's
really
something
fun.
that we will do.
I just want to make cool stuff with my friends.
Comedy Resistance is also going to be kind of involved. So I think you should maybe get on the train for that. Okay. Yeah, exactly.
All right, I will. Cool. So like, so you're going to be working on The Promised Land. Like you already do Not Safe for Wonks, which I feel like anybody that's watching this already knows Not Safe for Wonks. Yeah. But like, can you tell us like what maybe fun stuff you might have coming up?
Yeah, we're doing a show on Haitian history like any day now. We're talking to who's the Sarah Inarone, who's running for mayor of Portland. She's on the upcoming guest list. We've got just so many people. God, I have so many guests that I can't even name all of them at once. But we have just tons of artists and activists and political figures. Donna Imam's going to be back in a little while, and she's doing something with Bernie and Julian Castro and Beto, like literally right now as we speak. And she's going to be back soon. Just like tons and tons of people, and it's a good show. I mean, literally just the rotating panel is good enough to be a great show week to week and day to day. And it just tries to cover not just current events, but things where you can, have a discussion with people in your own social circle and social area based on the things that you hear on the show, so that you can be smarter and better than everyone around you, which is
harder,
really
faster.
Yeah, that's what podcasts are for.
I just realized I want to say, this is also why I need a producer, is my headphones. I was like, why are my headphones so messed up? And I realized my thing was not plugged in all the way. Like that is a straight up I am a boomer.
Yeah, that's a producer can't help you with that. You just need someone to come to your house. There's someone who's watching this and they want to just be your.
I don't want to blame it on the drugs, but like maybe my brain is a bit fried lately. And I say that like all drugs, like caffeine and everything. Like I think it's just messing with me. But yeah, I'm like really excited. I've been on the stream. I've been on the Not Safe for Wonk stream a couple times. I'm going to be going on Bitch Brunch next week with Merrick for America, who you know from Twitter probably. And we're going to be talking
this show earlier today. She was
And
on fire.
yeah. And and we're going to be talking about like sex work specifically, which is going to be really, really cool. And it's not really the everyday. I mean, like what's funny about the online sex work community is that like there are a ton of anarchists. Like there are so many anarchists and communists and socialists in online work like that. It would blow your mind. You'd be like, oh my God. So I'm really excited to talk about that. But yeah, like I'm also going to be doing a sex worker podcast within a podcast. So it's going to be like the Hot Girl Agenda presents 5 to 9, and it's about sex work by 2 sex workers, me and my friend Simone in Seattle. And we just I just edited the first episode. I'm going to be throwing it up on the Patreon really, really, really soon, probably tonight or tomorrow. And we had like a great time. We talked for like an hour and a half for our first episode, and we were like, we got to stop. We got to like I'm pumped for it. It's going to be really awesome. But yeah, like there's so much good stuff going on, and I'm just like really thankful for MADSA for opening up the avenues for meeting so many cool people. And I'm really excited to see what this next year of organizing has in store for us, because I think it's going to be very productive. I mean, we're going to do it. We're building socialism, man. We're freaking doing the damn thing.
The quality of people has just been really great this year. The quality of weed has been really great this year. You gotta really meet socialists if you want to really get blunted.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. It's incredible.
Yeah, we share our drugs.
That's right.
We're not stingy with it. We're pretty cool. Yeah, but cool. I'm gonna go with I don't want to end on a negative note.
Okay.
But I do want to ask, what was your least favorite aspect of organizing this past year? Not MADSA specific, but just like in general.
When you're really tired and you're having a meeting and there's like 5 people in the room and there's something that literally has to be done for anything else to happen, and then everybody's like, all right, so who's gonna do this shitty thing? And then there's a pause and nobody says anything,
and your light bulb goes off in your brain and you're like,
this is gonna end up being me.
I'll do it.
Yeah, and then you're like, okay, I'll do it. And then it's like, oh, I already don't have any time today. So you just say, all right, well, now I'm going to bed at 2 a.m. instead of at midnight. All right, fine. Or I'm going to bed at 3 instead of at 1. That was the worst thing.
Man, we're like such good like pickup game players. Like we are so good at just like, I'm just realizing now, what sucks about that situation you're talking about is when you're in a group of like 5 to 7 people who are all already doing a shitload of work.
Yeah.
And you realize that of those 5 people, like, oh, you're going to have to be the one that does even more work. But like, yeah, that is a shitty feeling, because it's just like, you're already so stretched and you're like, but everyone else is stretched. So maybe I can stretch myself a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I could just push a little bit more. But again, self-care is going to be critical for this. Like, make time for it.
How have you been keeping your skin smooth this year?
Oh, let me tell you about this beautiful thing called Botox.
Yeah.
No, so most of this is makeup, I feel like, but I did get Botox last week and I talked about it on the stream, and it's finally setting in. So if you see me like looking kind of like Michelle Bachman-y, it's because I'm trying to have surprised face and it's not reaching my forehead. It's like only reaching my eyes.
I feel like you're too cynical to really have a good surprise face.
I can do this.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I can be like, but I've come to the conclusion that skincare is bullshit. And everyone I know that like is like an esthetician basically has told me this as well. Cause I follow a lot of Instagram girls, and they're like, just get the fillers and Botox. Like it's going to be around the same price you spend on expensive skincare and creams. You don't need a very expensive skin cream. Anyone out there who's a skincare person, like I have some really expensive creams. And when I was told that by my esthetician, I was like, wait, so I don't really need all this stuff. And she's like, you need like sunscreen, a decent moisturizer, like something with retinol, and you need to get Botox every like 3 months and fillers every like 1.5 years. And I was like, okay, bet. Like, so that's my skincare. Oh, water, drink water.
Yeah.
Seriously, drink water. Oh, just eat some leafy greens, by the way. It's also very good for your skin.
Everybody should have, and this is where, I can come in. You've got to have the right kitchen accessories because it's going to improve your diet a whole lot.
Get sharp knives for your kitchen. Sharpen your knives.
Sharp knives. You need an Instant Pot so that when you go to work, I know the internet loves Instant Pot. It's like, oh, Instant Pot, but it's really
basically
good.
A rice cooker, but yeah.
It just broke like 3 weeks ago. I had a Zojirushi rice cooker.
Oh, shoot.
And you would think, a $200 device to make rice? Yeah, a $200 device to make rice, because while you are cooking like an idiot, or you're tired and you're like, I don't want to cook, let me order delivery. And you do that twice a week, and you're probably ordering from Postmates, right? And
so you're tipping on top of that.
$50. So by the end of the month, you've spent $150 on takeout and going out to eat. You go and you get the rice cooker, you throw it in, you have gourmet rice. Just you hit the button and it comes out fucking perfectly every time you make it. And you can watch TV and chill or whatever, and you can put on top of it. And just speaking like as a poor person, you can put rice with whatever you have laying around your house.
Yes.
If you have like some chicken or whatever, you just make the chicken and you throw it on there, and you get some Frank's Red Hot, and you put it on there, and suddenly you have a meal. You're fine.
That's one thing that I learned when I moved to the States, because like on Guam, we eat rice with everything, like in the morning, lunch, at night. It's not healthy. It's not healthy to eat rice like that. But if you're broke and you just need the calories, like put some freaking soy sauce in that bad boy. Like go to the store and get those like those seaweed flakes, the furikake, and you just like shove that on there. Throw an egg on there. Like that's
literally the cheapest possible meal. Some beans, a can of beans, some salt, some pepper, some butter, and you put that on a bed of rice that's from a machine and it's 100% dope. Oh, you're in heaven. You're good.
You know what? I just had an idea that I have to write down for a future episode, and it's going to be all about struggle meals. And I think I'm going to ask for like people's submissions so we can like pull it up and like talk about their struggle meals.
I'm telling you, canned beans and some of that ghetto sausage from the gas station / grocery. Don't get it from the gas station, but go to a grocery store and get that box of sausage. And just fry that bad boy up and put that with some rice and butter, and you are just living.
Okay, I'm gonna like reveal my struggle meal when I'm like crazy depressed, and this is before I had a car, which gave me a lot more ability to put more junk in my body. But when I didn't have a car and I was just like super miserable and I was really poor, I would just go to the dollar store and I'd get the potted meat, and I'd have my rice and I'd like put it over rice, and I'd microwave it all till it was really crispy. And I like put soy sauce on it. And honestly, that shit rules. Potted meat sounds disgusting, and it is, but it tastes in that moment when you're just like when you are like, I know I need to eat something, but I am too depressed to eat anything good. That is the perfect meal. Like,
you are so funny because I would figure you for a spam-based meal.
Oh no! If I was too poor for spam, I'd get potted meat.
Potted meat, yeah.
Because spam is expensive. Spam is like, even at the dollar store, spam is like $2.75.
When I was a kid,
pork
when I was a kid, spam was cheap as hell. Like it was considered like, you can't afford meat, you're getting spam. Spam costs as much as meat now.
It does, which is bullshit, because I also still eat spam because, like, again, when you like struggle, when you're poor for so long, it's like those become your comfort meals.
Spam is in my blood.
Yes, spam is in my blood. And Guam, of course, like it's like the post World War II diet is, well, even pre-World War II, was like spam. So it's like a cultural thing for me too. So when people are like spam, and I'm like, How dare you insult my culture? First of all. Second of all, I'm poor. But like, yeah, now that I have a car, I can actually like go to Kroger and like pick up vegetables and shit. But yeah, if you just go to the Dollar General, potted meat, make that shit crispy in the microwave, it's good shit.
Do you ever like drive somewhere or eat at a restaurant or take a Lyft somewhere and feel guilty? Like you'll be like, God, I really just blew $50.
Yes. I did. Okay, so my most bougie moment ever was when I was hanging out with like I was hanging out with this like guy I met from the strip club, and he just like wanted me to hang out with him. And so he was like paying me to hang out with him at a party basically. And so like I went he paid me like $500. Like we just kind of hung out with the people at the party and like chilled and like, you know, did stuff that rich people do. And and just like talked shit. And like, you know, just had it was kind of a lame party, honestly. It was really not a very fun party, but it was in a big, nice house and they had a lot of alcohol and a lot of drugs and it was cool. But like I ended up crashing there on the couch in the morning. I think I got like a Lyft home or something. And it was like he ordered it for me and it was like a Lyft Black. So it was like the super fancy Lyft. And I was like, this is really expensive. And I was just sitting there in the back and I'm like asking the driver all these questions. And I'm like, so how long you been driving for? Like just trying to be like super nice and be like, I am not rich. Like, please don't put my name on a list like of sucky people. Like it was like but it's like every time I sit in a Lyft that I feel that way, you know, even when I was poor and I didn't have a car and I had to use a Lyft to get around everywhere, I didn't feel very good about it. Like, especially when you don't want to talk to them and you're like, I just want to like sit in peace. Like, I don't want anyone talking to me. And it's not like about like, I don't want my driver talking to me. It's like, no, I don't want a stranger talking to me.
Right.
Like whatsoever. And I would just like this experience to go by as quickly as possible. So yeah, that definitely makes me feel bougie. It makes me feel bougie to order delivery. Like I feel like an asshole. I usually get takeout if I'm ordering from a restaurant these days. But delivery feels like I feel like a jerk sometimes.
I ordered what was one of my bougiest delivery meals? A friend had a birthday and I ordered sushi. Ooh. And so I went to like this nice sushi place and it ended up being like $100. And you know, I ate some of it the next day, obviously, but still it was, I had this big platter of sushi and there was like a kimchi bowl. And I also got like some boba tea. And I was like, yes, half of me was like, yeah, this is the shit. And then half of me was like, this is 25 struggle meals. This is a month of struggle that I'm just
exactly. Right now. That was always like what I did. God, I don't have these days much anymore. But when I had like a good day at the strip club or something, and I'd go home and I'd like get like delivery or takeout or something, and I'd be like, oh fuck yeah, I'm so cool. But then I'd be like, I spent $45 on takeout. Fuck. Like that's a whole like week's worth of meals for me normally. And I'd feel like bad about it. But it's like, if anyone out there is feeling bad about this shit, don't feel bad about it. Especially if you grew up struggling, like you deserve it. Sometimes you have to remind yourself when you grew up poor, you deserve this shit. You deserve nice things. It's not bougie to eat a nice meal.
Charcuterie.
It is not. Yeah, exactly. I fucking love charcuterie. Okay. And it can be hella cheap if you go to the dollar store for it. All right. So I will have no charcuterie naysayers on this stream. Thank you. And we actually, Brandon, will you be able to stick around for some of the Louisville stuff, or are you going to dip?
Yeah, I'll be here.
Okay, cool. So we have Aaron. I'm going to go ahead and add Aaron to the stream. What's up?
What's up, comrade?
Hey, thanks for joining us. We were just talking about struggle meals and also like ordering takeout and stuff. What's your struggle meal?
Ramen, like always.
That's right. Not nothing. Yeah. Well, how do you prepare your ramen? Do you just do it? You just put the packet in there and eat it?
I throw an egg in there.
Yeah.
I throw an egg in there, like mix it up. I'll throw some shit in there. But like, I mean, other than that, I guess like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That's not even struggle though. That's just
These
like
are low-level struggle. You're eating the same struggle meals you had when you were 6.
yeah, I mean that is a struggle though, man. That is like living in a paternalistic capitalist society where I feel like a child always forever. So
That's how I feel when I eat like a cup of noodles. Cause like when I was younger, my parents, like my dad didn't have time to cook like after, school or whatever. Cause he is a teacher, like he would be like, all right, cup of noodles with peas and like frozen peas and carrots in it. And we ate that like 3 times a week. Like we ate that shit. And my brother, he cannot like eat it anymore. He's like, I don't know how you fucking eat that shit. Ugh, it just reminds me of being young and poor. And I'm like, I don't know. It's like my comfort meal. I don't know. Like it just tastes good still.
I mean, like it's like when you go to the bar and it's like, yo, I'm gonna get like a shitty ass beer that I usually get because it's like a PBR, man. It's like the people's beer, dude. I don't care about, especially in Atlanta. I don't care about this craft shit. You know what I mean? Like I'm good, dude.
Yeah.
I'm a dirtbag.
I still drink PBR and Miller High Life. Once in a while I'll get a Corona. I'm a very cheap beer person. Once in a while I'll get like y'all go to a bar and get one of these India Pale Ales or whatever.
Yeah. I can't drink beer anymore. It gives me a headache. It's this is how I know I'm getting old. It's like my constitution is like I will have like one beer and I'll be like I'm so fucking full. I feel like I ate like a shitload of rice just now.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. Are you a liquor person now, Aurora?
Liquor person anymore either because that shit just brings up like like flashbacks of like blacking out drunk when I was in my 20s and I'm like I like wine now. I'm such a like I am kind of bougie, whatever. I like a nice sparkling rosé. I'm fine. Like you caught me. I'm a lib about it. No, but like I got also spoiled in the strip club because I would just drink champagne all the time. So I'm like I am kind of like that's the only way I get to be bougie is when I'm at work. So which is weird. But yeah, anyway, so not
wait,
sorry,
Aaron, give your drink preferences and then
I am drinking. I don't know if I can put this on stream. I don't know if I can put this on stream, but I'm drinking a White Claw. I don't like know if I can. I don't know. Yeah, that's what I've been doing recently. Just because like I can't handle malt liquor anymore. So like White Claw, please send me like a crate and I will tweet. I will sponsor me and I will tweet that shit out every day because yeah, man, they're just easy to go down and I'm drinking sugar water, dude. That has alcohol in it. It's tight.
There should really be like some affiliate program that somebody somewhere will send you some alcohol. I don't know whether it'll be good at White Claw. They'll sponsor you. There's somebody.
I wish I could get sponsored by some nice ass like company that made like rosé because that shit rules, man. It's so nice.
Yeah, dude. No, it is. It really is, man. Like I try to stay away from like liquor in general just because I get headaches and stuff like from drinking liquor, but like I don't know, man. Rosé, like as opposed to just beer or anything else, it's sweet, man. It's so fruity.
Yeah. I like drier. I like drier rosés and I like the sparkling rosés because I'm going for like the effervescence. Like it feels nice. It's like me. Like, and I am a child. I have a child's taste buds, so I'm like I'm trying to look for soda that isn't soda.
Yeah. No, I feel you, dude. Yeah, man. Look at us just talking about
weird intro.
Hey, you know what gives me
for me, it's perfect. Yeah.
You know what gives me a headache? Police brutality.
What gives me a headache? Systemic racism.
Speaking of which, no. I'm like not to like totally dip and be like, here's a serious thing, but it's like that is the reason why Aaron's on, and I asked Aaron to be on to talk about Louisville stuff. And Brandon's kind enough to stick around as well, mainly because when I was looking into this and I realized like how much there was to cover on the topic, it was pretty staggering, and I was like, I'm gonna need help with this. And that's what comrades are for, right?
Oh,
that's what the streaming community is for. It's for helping each other understand these things.
Hell yeah.
So first of all, I wanted to go ahead and introduce Aaron. Aaron, can you like tell us a little bit about yourself and like any plugs you got?
Yeah, I'm Aaron. I live in Atlanta. I don't even know what to say about myself. I guess like I'm a communist. Don't do much organizing nowadays. Most of my shit is on Twitter, unfortunately. But hopefully after this whole COVID thing is over, if I'll be able to get back into it. But I'm coming out with a podcast soon under Not Safe Media called Time of Monsters, which is pretty much chronicling our descent into barbarism and the radical left struggle against it. We're all speaking to smart and influential figures on the left, such as Glenn Greenwald, Matt Christman, Gravel Institute, Sean KB from the Antifada, Malika Jabal. I mean, I just got like, I'm just running through a list of like, yeah, just the cloud.
Just like no big deal. Like,
you know how Not Safe do, man. But no, it's gonna be and also just some of my personal comrades. Brandon is actually, I'm gonna interview him later this week, and we're gonna talk a little bit about GSA and Black socialism and whatnot. So I'm just trying to, have an educational kind of project. My Twitter's for shit posting, and this project will be intercepted for the dumbass left. So
nice. And yeah, but like I don't agree with that whole like thing that goes around on Twitter every couple of months when leftists get jealous of each other and they're like, podcasting isn't organizing. It's like, it totally can be. It can be. It can be educational. It can be and providing catharsis for your comrades is very critical. Like, it's not all just us going on Zoom meetings and fucking like doing boring shit. Like, it is like being there for your buddies and providing a shoulder to cry on and people to talk to and community. So community is important. But yeah, so don't ever talk yourself down like that on my stream.
Posting is practice. You're right, Robert. Posting is practice.
It can be practice. I'm not saying that everybody out there, especially my detractors, they are not doing organizing. No.
They're counter-revolutionaries.
They're counter-revolutionary. It is known.
I actually heard that anybody who does not hit retweet when you are posting a new episode is counter-revolutionary.
Is my ideological enemy. Yes. So tonight, like, the reason why we're having this kind of panel is because we wanted to talk about the stuff in Louisville, which I just learned how to pronounce properly because I am not from the States, so I always thought it was Louisville. I was calling it Louisville.
It's like Louisville.
Like, pronouncing it real white, so it's pronounced Louisville. And I might even be getting that wrong.
Like Atlanta.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Hotlanta. People are going to be mad about that. But so just to recap what's been going on with the Louisville protests, Louisville is the city that Breonna Taylor lived in before she was murdered by the police. And they released her verdict last week for the 3 cops that were supposed to be charged for her murder as she was sleeping in her home. And they released the verdict that only one of the cops was going to be prosecuted, and it was not for murder, it was for wanton endangerment, which has a maximum of I think 5 years imprisonment if you get the maximum penalty.
They really said white drywall matters, bro.
Dead ass, bro.
Yeah, they said it with their whole ass chest. It was so. I want to let y'all talk about this more because I don't want to I don't want to take up too much of the air in the room about this. But the protests are like basically so basically when they released the verdict, they already had National Guard in place to basically, because they knew they fucked up preemptively. And what they wanted to do was stop any kind of riots from happening. Not stop, but they just basically wanted to punish anybody that was going to act out because of this verdict, and punish the community further instead of just doing what was right and, charging 3 officers for murder. So some of the updates on the protests, and I don't know if y'all have heard about this, but one of the state representatives, Attica Scott, she was arrested before the curfew was implemented on Thursday night, and she was charged with a Class D felony. So if she's convicted, she loses her right to vote and hold public office. 30 other protesters were arrested that night. And on Sunday, a Black man's body was in the street, and it apparently had been out all night after the cops had apparently shot him. So this is what's going on right now. Oh, and their body cams were turned off, of course. So I just want to give it all over to y'all and just get your opinions on what's going on right now and the conditions there.
Yeah, Brandon, do you want to start?
No, because I've been here talking for the last 45 minutes.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, whenever this stuff happens, like these, we were talking about a little bit in the stream earlier, not safe for wonks, but whenever these things happen, there's always like this numbness that I kind of feel where it's like, well, I knew it was going to happen, and then the next day is like utter rage. And I think like what's most insulting is like the wanton endangerment, like people were saying on Twitter that pretty much she got charged for the bullets that didn't miss her body. I mean, Hankinson, I think his name is Brett Hankinson. He was reprimanded in 2019 for, I think it was excessive force or something like that. So, like, this is a guy who, and this often happens with police departments, this is a guy who had prior complaints, pushed against him. And, and this happens, right? This is the natural result when you keep these people on the force, right? And I was watching the stream that night of the no indictment from Concrete Reporting on Twitch. Recommend people follow them as well if you kind of want to see some on the ground stuff. But essentially what the cops did when they declared the curfew was that they told people to go home. Protesters were trying to leave, and they kettled them onto a street right in front of the police station. And I'm watching this like live as it's happening, and they told them to sit down and were not pepper spraying them, but using pepper balls, So people are sitting down while being arrested, while also having to deal with and if you've never been pepper sprayed before or anything like that, or tear gas, like that shit makes it incredibly, difficult to breathe, to see anything. And just the way that, again, like you were saying, Rara, just setting up barricades, and preparing and putting the state in a state of emergency and preparing for this no indictment was just, it's insulting. And coming from David, what's his name? David Cameron, he's a black AG of Kentucky, right? He's on Trump's shortlist for a Supreme Court nomination. It's just like that to me makes it equally disgusting, So, I don't know, man. I don't know where the protests go from here. It just seems like we're seeing this completely authoritarian, fascistic crackdown on protesters, and I don't know, just shout out to all my comrades, in Louisville.
Yeah, thank you for anybody that's on the ground right now doing the damn thing. We appreciate you. We're here for you. And I'm going to go ahead and put up a banner for the bail fund for Louisville. It's thebailproject.org.
Yeah.
And you can go ahead and donate to that. Yeah, one of the things that struck me the most about the way they set this up before the verdict, and I made a tweet about it, but one of the things they chose to bring in the National Guard to activate all these cops, to arm all these cops. The fact that they could even arm all these cops is ridiculous to me, but they chose to activate all these cops and National Guard and put all these resources towards preventing protesters from expressing themselves and even just gathering peacefully. How many millions of dollars did they throw at this one night, right? Instead of just convicting the people that were guilty of it. Yeah. They are oppressing an entire population, thousands and thousands of people, so that they could protect 3 cops. That is, if people tell you that they're not convinced that we live in a white supremacist state, they're just not fucking, they're delusional. Yeah. And they're lying. And you can just look from a mathematics perspective about how much it actually costs to uphold white supremacy. And you can see that it would have been less expensive to just prosecute them properly.
Yeah.
They chose the more expensive, destructive option because they don't care about Black lives. They don't care about protesters. They don't care about justice. So it is really hard to fucking synthesize that as as a person. So I can only imagine what it's like for the people that live there, you know, because this is obviously not the first time that a Black person has been shot and killed by the cops. It's not the first time that a Black person's been shot and killed by a white person. I mean, there was that Kroger shooting in like 2018 that it was a white guy who killed like 2 Black people. And one of the people on the ground that was in the shooting, the shooter came up to, I think it was a woman. The shooter came up to the woman and said, "Oh, if you don't shoot me, I won't shoot you. Whites don't."
Yeah, exactly.
Whites.
Like we're on the same side type of shit. Yeah.
That was like 2018. And that was in Louisville. And like, I just want to touch on this a little bit because it's like, it's important to know that these tensions don't just come out of one event. This is cumulative. This is like a whole history of white supremacy. And it's reaching the head. And I just wanted to add another note about the Black man that was left on the street on Sunday night. The body cams, of course, were turned off by Louisville PD, so there's no evidence of what really happened. And this guy, he was known for giving cops free meals at his barbecue restaurant. Like, it does not matter if you're friends with these people. It does not matter, like, if they're civil to you. Like, they are the enemy, like, straight up.
I mean, go ahead, Brendan.
The thing that actually stands out to me about the background of that shooting is the drug war. Because the thing that actually is in the background of all of that is the no-knock raids. Are you trying to Zoom me, Rara? I hear that you've muted yourself. You've blown the stream up.
Boomer brain strikes again. Sorry.
Boomer brain. Okay. But yeah, the no-knock warrants. All of that has its roots in the drug war of the late 80s, early 90s, and kind of like the Joe Biden era of American politics. Was, you know, they would go to a place and they would knock and they would get, you know, their identify themselves. And if you've seen Goodfellas, you know, Henry Hill runs to the bathroom and gets the big bag of cocaine and flushes it down the toilet. And people were like, well, we can't have this. People can't just flush the drugs down the toilet and have there be no evidence. And also, you know, they're worried about, will someone shoot back if we say that, like, the police are here? So that's part of the political impetus for no-knock raids. And this stuff, these no-knock raids have had like disastrous consequences for many people who have not had like the national attention of Breonna Taylor's case. And if you go back, we did a whole episode talking about no-knock raids on our show. But we just talked about how just so many people have been caught up in these raids and been shot accidentally or caught in crossfires or weren't resisting and got shot anyway, of all races, genders, colors. It's just been a total disastrous policy. And the other thing that really stands out to me is like the gentrification background, because this actual property was one that was in a neighborhood where they were trying to price everybody out. And if they can like get you on something and force you out of the house or lower the property values, then that developer that's got like the big pile of cash and wants to start their next project can like move in the wake of it. And it's kind of frustrating because all these things, they come together and they form the financial backing for the police as a unit. And they also form like the propaganda backing through, you know, the media, and between that and the physical arm of that, which is like stuff like the drug war and no-knock warrants, which they all kind of feed in on each other, and they create like a population that's afraid, that is willing to spend money that the city doesn't have on brutal tactics that don't help any of the population and cause harm to just a smaller slice of the population, and doesn't really do much for like the people of the city or the state as a whole. It sucks, and it's very frustrating to have to go to these court cases. And dude, my ex was really into the Trayvon Martin case and would like watch the court proceedings all the time, and she thought it was a slam dunk. And I'm like, no, dude, America there's too much money involved, and like obvious conclusions don't get reached, which is why George Zimmerman is still like alive and selling T-shirts or whatever gross thing he's doing for money right now.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a real bummer, man. It's a bummer.
Yeah, I want to touch on the gentrification aspect because, you know, we're talking about Louisville, but we live in Atlanta, and I'm sure you guys saw that story recently of that APD officer who left the force because he was being forced to pretty much write tickets and, you know, execute warrants and things like that and harass people who lived in this Section 8 housing, because the only way for developers to kind of claim that, like, that property and that land for development, especially if you're on Section 8, right, is if residents there are convicted of a felony, right? Like, they tried many different things to try to get those people out, but essentially, like, you know, unless you commit, you know, a felony in public housing, that's the only way that, like, you can be evicted, right? And I think this is a part of, like, as a Marxist, right, as a historical materialist, this is a larger continued project of settler colonialism, right?
Yeah.
It literally is terrorizing and wiping people out, even if it means there's collateral damage, as there was in the case of Breonna Taylor, where Hankinson shot 10 times, and some of the shots went into an adjacent apartment where there was a pregnant woman as well, right? So, and, you know, it's not even about whether individual police are bad, right? But again, as you were saying, Brandon, this is what fascism is, when you have the financial backing of real estate capitalism that is using these special bodies of armed men, that's law enforcement, to gentrify neighborhoods. It's not just a boutique coffee shop, you know, or a vape shop going up in your neighborhood. It actually affects, like, the material lives of people, going so far as to claim their lives for fucking nothing at all.
And the thing that's really tragic about it is, and you can speak to this as being an Atlantan, is people are happy for those things when they first see them. Like regular people, like if you talk to your mom or your uncle, or you go to a barber shop, any of this stuff like that they see, they're like, yeah, cool, it's good to have some nice shit in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So when they see that first house, they're like, yeah, cool. When they see like a CVS, they're like, yeah, cool. It's not for like a couple of years when other things start going up in price and they can't afford to live there. And obviously, you know, gentrification is like a decade-long project, really, in most neighborhoods. But it's not until your prices start going up that you're like, wait, what's happening here? And people don't always know the connection between the two until somebody points it out to them. Otherwise, they're thinking, yeah, it's nice to have nice stuff. And the cost of living, they just think, man, life gets harder every year.
It's hard to connect concepts, usually because people are too busy working to really understand how to even connect those thoughts. Like, oh, that's a nice coffee shop. Oh, my rent's going up. Wonder why that's happening. And it's like, that's a legitimate thing. Like, people just don't understand why those two things are connected, but also like how policing reinforces it. Because like when I was researching this, and I found this article about how the gentrification project for that particular area in Louisville was like, the family, the lawyers for Breonna Taylor's family are saying in court documents that this police squad, place-based investigations, that's the name of the police squad, which just sounds like a fucking nightmare, right? Like place-based investigations, this police squad deliberately misled narcotics detectives to target a home on Elliott Avenue, leading them to believe they were after some of the city's largest violent crime and drug rings. So we have the police weaponized, like pointed literally at these communities and told, get them out of here. But like, here's what I'm wondering, like, I don't know that they're explicitly told that that's what they're doing, but the fact that that is what they are being used for, I think is probably why that guy ended up leaving the force, right? Is because he realized that he was being used by these development companies and by the cities and by the city council people that collude with them to like enable this kind of shit. And it's really scary because it's like, I mean, I've lived in Atlanta for 4 years, and I've lived in East Atlanta for a long time, for like the entire time I lived here, and my neighborhood's being gentrified, and it's very fucking scary.
I just came from there this morning, man, because my ex friend lives over there, and I'm there all the time, so I like see it. And I just want to add, Rara, like that article that you were talking about that you sent us earlier. The city moved to purchase her ex-boyfriend's home, and the fair market value of the home was $17,000 and $17,160, and they ended up purchasing it for $1, dude. That's like if you need like any more reason to believe that like a lot of what is happening now with all of these, I mean, Trayvon Martin is another example, right? Kyle Rittenhouse is another example. When Kyle Rittenhouse says, or Trayvon Martin as a, you know, neighborhood patrol or whatever like that, right? Like protecting private property. When Kyle Rittenhouse says that he went to protect private property, like I know a lot of people on the left were like, no, he was going there to kill, like, you know, Antifa and stuff like that. But no, like literally in these people's minds, whether they recognize it or not, this is a project of settler colonialism, right? Like this is why you cannot separate class and race in this country, you know, because it is all this continuous project of liquidating undesirable people from previously disinvested in and newly found invested in, right, neighborhoods. This is why you see around the Beltline in Atlanta, man, you see heavier policing now, right? You have been seeing that the past couple of years, you know. So I mean, what we say, like in, you know, the housing rights advocate community, I used to work for a Housing Justice League of Atlanta, is that we want development without displacement, right?
Right.
That's what we want, right?
Because it is possible.
It is possible. Yeah, it is.
But we see it all the time in this country, how it's just done with callous disregard for the people that have lived there their whole lives and like have had families that have lived there for generations. And that is like why when we say capitalism is violence, like this is what we're fucking talking about as communists, because any kind of system that prioritizes development for development's sake and profit for profit's sake is bound to lead to violence against the most poor people, and usually because of capitalism and because of like settler colonialism, usually brown and black people.
Exactly. There's this term that I like a lot, and I'll DM you, man, the PDF, but it's called necro-capitalism.
Ooh, I like that.
Now, I mean, the neoliberal, I guess, iteration of it is just literally just, and capitalism has always been based on that, but now especially, it's a market of death, right? It really is a market of death.
Well, first of all, necro-capitalism sounds very much like a fetish. It sounds like a theme night at a strip club.
Sounds like a dope Twitter handle.
I was gonna say it sounds like a D&D like subclass. I'm a necro-capitalist, actually.
Step up from anarcho-capitalist. Fucking psycho.
Hybrid classes are not allowed. I want to, if y'all don't mind, I want to read this comment.
Okay.
Regarding the drug war and police is pushing gentrification and capital interests in Kentucky, a quarter of Black people in Kentucky cannot vote. It is the most disenfranchised state for Black Americans. And, you know, they use felonies and convictions and things like that as a way to like keep you from voting. Breonna was definitely a casualty for profit's sake. I guess that may be a totally different conversation. I don't know. But in states like Florida, Kentucky, Georgia is also, you made that list. Georgia's on that list too. The prison system is also used like convenient bonus. You're no longer like a citizen. You still have to pay taxes. You still have to pay in. But in terms of like, what are your rights? They're severely diminished. And to make things harder, like it's harder to get a job when you're out of jail because somebody will compare you to somebody that's like, well, this other person doesn't have a record, so I'll just pick them.
Yeah, and like what's happening in Florida is a good example of how even though they're trying to make pushes for rights for ex-felons to vote, they now implemented. I was talking to another activist about this, and I can't remember exactly. how this worked, but they basically said you have to pay all of your court fees before you can even vote. So after they had passed that felons have the right to, like, you know, convicted felons have the right to vote, the state was like, no, like, you're gonna have to pay for this shit. And so it's like every time we try to make this is why incrementalism is a failing, like it's a failing idea in my mind, because for every incremental change that, like, for every step forward, we get like 10 steps back. Because who's going to want to pay like hundreds, thousands of dollars in court fees so they can vote for Joe Biden, who might be the reason that they're there in the fucking first place? Like,
dude,
it's a joke,
dude. Like, you know, and Rosa Luxemburg and Lenin have thoughts on incrementalism and, you know, participation electoralism, and it's like, basically, if you're a communist, if you're, you know, any sort of leftist in the United States, right? Like, let's be real with each other. The best that we can hope for is some sort of social democracy, right? Mm-hmm. The best that we can hope for is, like, you know, kind of Bernie's platform, right? But at the end of the day, I think what like drives us is the understanding that incrementalism and these reforms tend to institutionalize themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And they often do, especially from liberals, with their moralizing good intentions, as we were talking about earlier with sex work, right? And some of these, like, you know, anti-sex trafficking bills that people like ghouls like Kamala Harris have like championed, it's like, mm-hmm. and authored. It's just like, no, dude, these actually make the material conditions worse for people, mm-hmm. right? They actually do. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, it's, I think, and we'll get into, I guess, the history of Louisville too, but yeah, it just sort of reminds me of, like, Atlanta is the city that's too busy to hate, right? Mm-hmm. That's what people have often called it. And Kentucky, just historically being like a border state, like the racial relations in Kentucky seem to be one of either like accommodationism, right? Or like this idea of polite racism, right? Mm-hmm. And like Black people in that city have for so fucking long been expected to just kind of like get along, right? And acquiesce to white leadership in fear mm-hmm. of retaliatory, like fascistic violence, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really interesting that you kind of bring that subject up and you talk about it, because I think, well, just among Black people, there is like a hunger for intermediary reforms that don't make anybody mad. And when you look down the line at these policies that we're worried about and stressing about right now, almost all of them were yesterday's intermediary reforms. Like literally the Joe Biden crime bill in 92 was considered like an intermediary reform to what mm-hmm. Reagan wanted to do. And Biden would brag sometimes, well, this is better than Reagan. But like the stuff that the Republicans wanted to do was far more openly brutal, right?
Right.
Yeah. Considered this crime bill that for the last 25 years, people have been like, we've lost a generation to. That mm-hmm. was considered like a moderate, sensible, incremental reform. Obamacare, which, you know, nobody, unless you're extremely poor and had nothing beforehand, or you're extremely well off and it didn't make a difference to you in either way, nobody's much better off for Obamacare, just in terms of, not nobody, but there's so much more paperwork that you've got to do.
Yeah.
Something that's not
nightmare
household or your life. So there's this entire gap of people who are caught in the middle, where Obamacare literally just made it harder for them to get insurance that was more of a hurdle to get.
Right.
Those two, like, hey, that's a moderate, sensible, incremental reform. Don't ask, don't tell. Moderate, sensible, incremental reform. People now think of it as like an obviously bigoted law, but back mm-hmm. in the Bill Clinton era, that was considered like progressive.
Also, anyone who's been in military service and is like queer or gay can tell you that law did not do jack shit for them.
Yeah.
Like it actually makes it harder for them in a lot of senses. So yeah, again, like all this incrementalism, it feels like and that's the thing too. What kills me about it is like the crime bill was a compromise with the Republicans, which is just so screwed up to think about, because all the damage it did, that happened because people like Joe Biden, like they wanted a middle ground between like absolutely barbaric and basically letting things go on as much like as they were. There was never any like counter proposal for just making things like more equitable, like going like they never like that's the problem with centrists is it's like the ratcheting theory, right? It's like they ratchet it to the right and it's impossible to go left. It's like we're seeing all these things, and it's like I'm sure the stuff with the ex-felons in Florida is like a perfect example of that. It's like, you know, do felons really have rights anymore if they have to pay thousands of dollars to participate in the government again, in government representation again? Like, no, that's not freedom. That's just feels like more tyrannical, especially when wages are stagnant and rent keeps going up and cost of living keeps going up and healthcare keeps going up. It's like, who the fuck is going to want to pay thousands of dollars just to vote so that they could have their ballot potentially like thrown out? Like,
it's very rare. And we're not even talking, and by the way, when I talk about problems, I don't mean problems in the sense of like, have we passed a bill to eliminate human suffering? Like that's not, the bar is not that high. I'm really talking about the bar of just the United States compared to other countries in the world. And these other countries, we can all crack open a book and we can talk about the imperialism that underwrites the economy of many of these countries. Let's skip that conversation for a minute and just say that when we talk about the economy, we talk about criminal justice, if we talk about healthcare, if we talk about teachers in schools, we can literally look at our country and other countries that had the exact same problem to the exact same degree, and we can measure how the incremental American approach has happened. And as Aaron said, these incremental changes quickly institutionalize themselves versus other countries that just like made sweeping basic reforms that didn't go through the American lobbying system of everybody with money carving out a special exemption for themselves and their political interests. And we can literally see the United States, despite having like this huge amount of wealth for the top 1%, look at any other metric that's a quality of life metric. That's infant mortality. That's reading. That's gap between, you know, the highest and the lowest income. It's the average amount of wealth that the average person has. It's debt. And for all of these numbers, like the numbers for the United States have just been skyrocketing for many years. So, and that's in comparison to other places. So we're not comparing any of this stuff to a state where regular people have full say in their government. And we're also not comparing it to a world that is free of exploitation. We're just literally comparing it to just across
things that already exist.
Imaginary border. Right. That's next door to you. Because we have in the United States, we have like a country that is uniquely addicted to state violence. Like not just violence, but like violence that's perpetuated and supported and underwritten by the government and by the citizens. And it's not something that should be happening. It's
also just like a philosophy of punishment. Like we don't have as a country, like as a if there was an American culture, our American legacy is one of just punishment. It has nothing to do with like our governing has nothing to do with providing like quality of life for our citizens. It is literally we are punishing like the people that get out of line and aren't in lockstep with what we want. And it's just so fascistic and it's so demoralizing, but it's also an addictive way of thinking, because I don't think most Americans really know what they would do with the freedoms that other countries have.
Yeah.
Like, what would we do if we weren't working 40 to 80 hours a week?
Yeah.
Like, people's imaginations in this country, especially if you were born and raised in the stateside, it's very limited to like what freedom actually, like freedom is such a limited like scope to these people. They can't imagine a freedom that's like just not working your ass off. Like,
yeah, I think too, this conversation.
Or when they, go ahead.
Sorry, my cat's scratching.
No, I think this conversation too covers like, and you know, I don't want to plug my own shit. I had a conversation with Matt Christman. I had a dope conversation with Matt Christman that you guys are going to really like, all of y'all listening out there, where we talked about the Civil War and the failure of Reconstruction and the how can I say it? The prevention of interracial working class solidarity, right? And one of the things I think people have to understand in the United States is that, and I learned this taking a poli-sci class, right? But, you know, one of the questions, thankfully, I had like a Soc Dem professor. So like he wasn't total lib or conservative, thank God. But we talked about why there's no Labor Party in the US, right? Like an actual Labor Party. And I think that like one of the things that people have to recognize is that like these European countries that have Labor parties, like they went through stages and generations, like several economic modes of production that precipitated a class struggle, right? Feudalism, for example. The only people who had anything like feudalism in the United States were fucking black people, right? You know what I mean? So this is why you can see parallels between the European labor movement and the civil rights movement, right? Like this country sort of developed like property rights before there were actually any economic rights that developed, right? So this country was founded as a petty bourgeois nation. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, you know, like drawing on historical materialism, kind of understanding like these class relations and these developments, like helps a lot of people on the left, or should help a lot of people on the left, to kind of crystallize this idea that, I know people say it all the time, man, but I'm not free until we all free, right? Like we cannot have any even nascent socialist movement in this country without also addressing like the oppressive and exploitative history of people of color, right? And Louisville, again, like Louisville, am I fucking thinking people are gonna get mad at me? Louisville. I mean,
it's hard.
I'm just gonna say like I'm saying Louisville. Like
I'm gonna call it whatever I want to call it. I'm not an anthropologist.
I'm gonna ask Elville, right? But no, like yeah, dude, it is, and I think like Breonna Taylor's death and the history of Kentucky being a border state, right? Like definitely like factors into that. You know what I mean? So yeah.
So like, you know, I wanted to touch on the Louisville history because, you know, I knew before I even started researching this, and I am not a history buff. Like through organizing, I have realized like I need to research more. I need to know my history in order to really like synthesize all these ideas that come together. And for this podcast, I was like, we need to go back, right? And we need to like see where it all started. So with Louisville, I'll just give you like a short rundown of what I was like researching. So Louisville was chartered like in the late 1800s. And before the Civil War, it had one of the largest slave trades in the Americas. In the 1850s, slave traders sold 2,500 to 4,000 slaves annually from Kentucky downriver. So actually the expression sold down the river originated as it was a term that came out of Louisville slave trading. And it was literally about like sold down the river literally means like the slaves being split apart from their families. So and Kentucky, like it became a Union state, obviously. But after the war, the Confederate veterans came back and they took over the government. So those people that they were fighting against, the Union soldiers were fighting against, they came back after the war and they took over political power in the city. So this is a state that's never been free of like it may have been in the Union, but it has all the sins of the Confederacy because of the people that were allowed to retain power afterwards. And it was actually like in World War II, it was a major location for like aircraft production. And then it started declining again economically in the 60s and 70s. So with that, the Black neighborhoods also declined. But then like all of this development started happening. And it started facilitating like expansion right into the suburbs and everything like that. So when we talk about like the like gentrification in Louisville and how it related to like Breonna Taylor's murder, and how it related to like the violence faced by Black people in those communities, this isn't a new thing that's happening. This is part of the project. Like this is part of the colonial project that we keep talking about. Like this is something that never went away. It's just accelerated.
Yeah.
The only difference is that we have the ability to see what's happening right now and have a documented like evidence of what is happening. But it's always been there.
Yeah, I just want to bring up like because I was looking at riots in Louisville, and there was Bloody Monday, August 6th, 1855. And it was on Election Day in Louisville where Protestant mobs attacked German and Irish Catholic neighborhoods, right? And this was precipitated by the Know Nothing Party, which was this weird political party that was like sort of social democratic, but they were also like rabid anti-nativist. You know what I mean? It's I mean, I think that Rara and Brandon, we can see this on the left now when we talk about so-called class reductionist, or I don't like that term, but you know what I mean, where we're talking about the friendly fash of the left, right? The supposed left. And even that sort of clash, you know, and understanding that as a border state, the destiny of like Kentucky and Louisville was really in the hands of like a white leadership who wanted to maintain some semblance of a slaveocracy in the South, just by social relations, right? And also too, like Kentucky wasn't completely innocent, you know, during the Civil War, because like a lot of other border states, like they were like literally fucking like breeding slaves, you know what I mean? And selling slaves. They were a slave market if they did not have actual slavery themselves to the Deep South, right? So all of that kind of history and the sort of abdication of any responsibility for like Black lives and brown lives in Kentucky obviously reverberates like to this day, right?
Yeah. It's also like, I was really surprised when I was researching this because I was reading about like segregation, you know, during the civil rights movement. And even though, what was it, Brown versus Board of Education?
Brown
versus Board of Education, even though that was in like, what, 68, I think, it wasn't until 1975 that the county that Louisville's in was even fully desegregated. 1975, like that to
fucking
me,
insane,
like,
dude.
It's like we are so far behind of like, and when people like, and this is not something I really hear from liberals at all, but like when I hear this from conservatives, it absolutely drives me completely mad. But it's like, oh, you know, slavery was 200 years ago. Like everybody's got the same rights now, and it's like
we live in a post-racial society, Rara.
Yeah, and it's like,
we had a Black president.
If you don't even have schools that were desegregated until the 70s, like that is not. Everything's not just going to be fine after like 40 years. Like it's not, there's so much work to be done. But yeah, like, so the history of like, of over policing in these communities is extends so far back to like the beginning of the city, and also extends all throughout the 20th century, because in 1968, there were a bunch of protests. There was a protest led by the Black Unity League of Kentucky called Bulk. And they were protesting the possible reinstatement of a white officer who was involved, where the cops allegedly, I mean, let's be real, the cops brutalized 2 Black men during an arrest. So a bunch of people turned out, like hundreds of people turned out to protest the reinstatement of this white officer. And the mayor issued a citywide curfew. 400, almost 500 arrests were made, and 2 Black teenage boys ended up dead. This is in the 60s. Like nothing has changed. Like we're when people like are critical of Black Lives Matter, and like I just want to point them to every instance in history where this has happened over the past like 200 years, where it's like this. Of course there's riots. Of course. Wouldn't you be if your entire existence and the existence of your parents and your grandparents, it was just a chain of brutalizing violence? Like, and I don't have to explain it to you guys, obviously. I think we all understand that, and y'all more than I do. But like, it really pulls at me, because it's like, there's so much ignorance in this country. There's so much propaganda in this country that obscures the truth, the truth is that this is an institutionalized violence. It has always been there. It is not a couple of bad apples. It is the whole damn system, and we got to shut it down.
Yeah, man. And I think too, like there's like this really metaphysical aspect to it that just goes even beyond history, man. It's like motivated by it, but there's like this purchase in the like racial libidinal economy where it's like this ritualized murder and slaughter of Black people. And you can especially see this, like, just statistically speaking, right? This is not a hot take. Like, because white people constitute more of the US population and cops are just like rabid sociopaths, white people just die at the hands of police officers more than Black people. But relative to their population, because they're only 13% of the population, Black people are killed more. But why don't we see these fucking videos often, right? Of white people being killed by the cops, right? It's not something that we see. And it just feels like this need to like kill and slaughter and continue this settler colonial project has such purchase. And like this, like what I'm saying, this racial libidinal economy, you know, where like I remember seeing, and it happens with Black folks too, right? Prominent Black folks, where I remember seeing this BriannaCon shit, dude. Yeah. Where people were fucking putting her face on a fucking flyer. Like this was fucking like Bushwick, bro. Like
the memification of her murder is one of the really most upsetting things about this whole thing too.
Yo, by like Black people that I like Rhapsody is like a part of this BriannaCon event, and other like, you know, like Black.
I hadn't heard about the BriannaCon thing. That is really
look
gross.
Up. Yo, it looks. Go ahead, Brandon. You look like you want to say. Go ahead, my brother man is stroking the beard.
So, good Lord. Unfortunately, we have a lot of Black people who only interface with like public activities through like the fucking capitalist mode. And as somebody who, I mean, I write advertising, I'm obviously not guilt free of this, but like you only like can think of this stuff in terms of event planning. So you're like, man, I know how to plan it. I know how to put out this club flyer. So I'm going to do the same thing that I do, not really thinking that like this thing that you're doing has no relationship to the actual lever of power that we're trying to pull. And also, yeah, where is this money going? I'm always annoyed when people say, where's the money going? Because it just kind of feels sometimes like that it's overly cynical. But for something like that you know is a specific sensitive topic, you know, if you're doing a gentrification con, it's still a little bit odd, but okay. But you doing something that's about a specific person is very odd and wild to me. And I know you know this as somebody who, you know, you're in Atlanta, and Rara, you too. We've gone to like events and marches and shit where like a rando with a megaphone would just start talking and plugging his gram.
Or wearing a shirt that has his Instagram on it. And getting in all the freaking protest pictures. Yeah, I know that guy. And he's not fucking, I'm sorry. Like, I know I don't get to say like, who's invited, but like,
no, that's
like that
up.
pisses me off.
I'll say it. No, that's fucked up. And some people just don't know it, like legitimately don't know any better.
Right.
Like that's a group of people who like,
but some people are drifters. Like,
yeah, their only mode of thinking about this is in terms of like publicity, sell, okay. And then there's other people who are engaged with this on all levels that are just totally cynical.
Right.
There are so many magazine covers, and there's so many corporate shout outs. There's so many banners on websites. And it's like, what are you doing outside of this banner that is going to pressure the institutions that actually make the decisions and screw things up on the grand jury level, especially if you are Oprah Winfrey and by now you're like an older woman and you've lived through Rodney King, you lived through Amadou Diallo, you lived through Trayvon Martin. So if we can accept, just as a premise, that you are outraged by this, you've lived long enough to actually see what happens and how all of this works. You've been here before. And you should know better than anybody else. And I think one of the reasons why younger Black folks are frustrated with older Black folks, you should know better than anybody else that the solutions that you're talking about, which are to stand in this line and get rained on for 3 hours to vote, aren't actual things that solve the problem, because you already did that for 20 years and nothing's been solved.
Right. And we're having the same conversation over and over and over again. And it feels like, I understand, like, when Zoomer activists are pissed and they want to get out there and fuck shit up, or it's like, or just you're a regular person and you don't consider yourself an activist and you get swept up in it. Yeah. It's like, of course you're not gonna convince people that voting is the way to go, because it just feels so like, it feels so limp dick. I'm sorry. Like, it's just so shitty to tell people that are hurting that you just gotta vote. Like, that is not it's not a very empathetic answer either. Like, it feels like they're just trying to shut you up.
Did y'all see, I'm sure y'all saw, man, Ava DuVernay, the director of 13th. Can I read this tweet real quick? I'm not going to say any words that are going to get me in trouble. I'm just going to read this quote real quick, man. This tweet. She says, for those who hadn't been listening for the past 4 years, Trump just told you that he ain't leaving, that he is a white supremacist. If that doesn't get every American who is not white into overdrive to toss his ass, we may actually deserve what happens next.
If he ain't leaving, then he ain't leaving. What do you mean?
Bro,
that's obvious.
Bro, this woman lives in a $10 million mansion. What are you talking about, son?
Yeah,
she is a multi-millionaire, dude. Like, and this is why I get upset. Like just like even talking to like older Black folk, like even sometimes like my mom and my sister, where I'm just like, dude, like, as you were saying, Brandon, right? Either you have lived long enough to experience the futility of electoralism, right, and just this, like, these half measures that the Democratic Party, or even not even half measures, like quarter measures that the Democratic Party has been making for the last like 50 years, right? Or like you just have been sort of like conditioned to think that like the Democratic Party has restrained your imagination of what is possible, right? That is the worst thing. That's probably why, like, another hot take, I'm sorry, like, liberals, the Democratic Party, to me, are more insidious than Republicans, because what they do is they manage the expectation of their voters. You have millions of people across the country, right, like protesting for Black lives, dude, and you can't even go up on stage, right, and say that, people say that the police, like, there are a few bad apples, but you know what the rest of the saying is? A few bad apples ruin the bunch, right? Like, maybe, exactly.
But of course, everything's sloganized in this country, so it's like it's reduced down to like something that loses its meaning. It's just like the arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor meme. Like, it's a meme now, and it's a meme because we cannot conceptualize things in this country that are past like a slogan or something you throw on a t-shirt, and that is like a failing of this fucking country to be able to like process ideas that are bigger than like a 5-word slogan.
Well,
like, sorry, that was a totally
no, it's not. It's that, yo, dude. It's like, again, Brandon, you went on the Trillbillies like the fucking other day, man. I haven't listened to the episode yet. I'm gonna listen to it after this, actually. But they talk about the epistemological crisis,
We touched on that very briefly.
Bro, I'm going to have a whole thing with them about it because I find that so interesting. And Kennedy just post-truth, right? Like epistemology is like the philosophy of knowledge, right? So when Tom talks about epistemological crisis or the E-crisis, he's talking about like post-truth. The fact that, and I'm sorry if anyone has watched the stream earlier, I'm touching on this again, but it's just something that just like blew my mind. The fact that we supposedly live in a representative democracy, and that includes the judiciary, right? In terms of a jury, right? And the fact that the state preemptively declared a state of emergency before we even got the verdict, which was supposedly the will of the people, is like, how do you deal with that contradiction as a human being, right? Living in the United States, right? As someone especially like who is like struggling for like liberation, right? Like on the one hand, they telling you, yo, this is a democracy, vote, and you'll get the results that you want because they'll be delegated by representatives of this so-called democracy. But then these motherfuckers, because they already know what the ruling is going to be and they know there's going to be outrage in the city, they set up fucking barricades, dude. So what, like, I'm just caught in this stasis where I'm just supposed to be like, all right, I'm going to push the button for Joe Biden, but what are the consequences of doing so?
Yeah.
Right.
I know.
Like, how is this going to fuck me over later, right?
Exactly. Go ahead, Brandon.
The thing that's really distressing about it is, Rara, we both know people in our lives who believe that the president is a white supremacist and they're not leaving, and that he's not leaving. And they are not smug. They're desperate. Like they're not talking. First of all, nobody who really believes that is talking about voting anymore.
Right.
And on top of that, it's not cool. It's not something to berate someone with. If you were like genuinely a wealthy person who is a critic of a rising authoritarian leader, and you were a student of history, and you saw what happened to people who are critics of rising authoritarian leaders in places like Turkey, it just seems like the solutions that you would be talking about and advocating for would be much more serious and be much more urgent than like being snarky for likes.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What are you getting out of that?
That and like this is a political, like this whole stuff with Ava DuVernay is very baffling to me because she made the documentary series 13th about the modern day slavery system,
endorsed by both Republicans and Democrats.
How did you miss the, like, okay, this is why people are uncharitable towards her in this, is because you are just being purposely stopping us from having the conversation we need to have so that you can reinforce the system that you yourself have reported on and know the depths of like its depravity. So when people are like saying, hey, fuck you, because that's the only response you can have to something like that, because you know better. Like someone like her knows better. Like that is my problem with it's my problem with rich liberals in general. Like, to be clear, like when I say like I don't think liberals are like our enemies, I'm talking about like poor liberals, because they exist and they're all over the place, right? Poor liberals are duped into this kind of fucking thinking by rich liberals who fucking know better. Like that, it's inexcusable to me. So when you see a post like this and you see a bunch of leftists respond with just like, hey, fuck you, it's because there's nothing else to say. Yeah. You can't reason with that
Shut
person.
the fuck up. Like we don't like it's like it's a similar.
Can you disappear to your mansion, please? Because like the rest of us are out here fucking doing the work. Like just pump your money into whatever org and like leave us the fuck alone. But it's actively harmful to put that out into the world. Like
we have Q would sometimes say libs with a lowercase L. Those would be like,
I like that thing.
Yeah, the non-cancerous libs. He would just be like, and these are the libs, and they're the regular people that we're annoyed with from time to time, but is our potential base.
They're normies.
But they're victims of propaganda too.
Right.
Like that's really like
they're normies, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. The non-toxic normal people who are like, my uncle's a cop and he's nice.
Yeah.
And then you have like the capital L libs who are like disingenuous and they really like their tax cut.
Hive.
Yeah. Well, most of them.
Those people are fucking insane.
And they just want to keep their taxes low, and they are willing to drape themselves in whatever HR approved language. And we really, just the left, I don't want to start a whole discourse, but when we got into discourses, we made a mistake, because that's the enemy's playing field, man. Like academia is literally their specialty, and just like capitalism's specialty is figuring out something and sucking the meaning out of it. Like if a miniature version of
this, that's all it is these days.
Well, it's like, go ahead, Brandon.
A mini version of this is the word progressive.
Oh my god!
And a version
I'm
of
guilty of using that word a lot.
A version of it this year is corporations using the word solidarity.
Bruh, like, yo, the thing, man, is that like I'm a shout out a book, yo, because I would need people to read this fucking book, man. It's called it's called Capitalist Realism by Mark Fisher. Rest in peace to Mark Fisher. It's an amazing book.
Our co-host Leia, that is her favorite book, if I recall, her favorite political book. So.
I have that shit, like I printed it out at my school. It's like 80 pages. It's like sitting on my bookshelf, man, and I return to it occasionally. And Mark Fisher, he doesn't come up with this term, but it's called interpassivity. And what that essentially means is he uses the movie, because he was a cultural theorist as well, right? So he uses a lot of movie references and like music and stuff like that to pretty much describe or talk about late stage capitalism, neoliberalism. And this term interpassivity, he gives the example of WALL-E, where WALL-E, if you haven't seen that movie, is basically the story about this fucking robot who lives in like a post-human society where humans have left the earth to colonize space because there's just too much fucking garbage on the planet, right? That's a kind rendition of interpretation of what we're going to go through. But interpassivity is like, you can watch a film like WALL-E, which is not explicitly anti-capitalist, but does have anti-capitalist themes with regard to overconsumption and consumerism. And you could pay for that ticket made by this multi-billion-dollar corporation and feel as if you are performing anti-capitalism itself, right? The prefix is sort of this interface, right, between media and yourself, and the passivity is the fact that you're not actually doing anything that's active, right? And liberals, I think, perform interpassivity. I mean, people call it virtue signaling as well, but I think interpassivity is like a great term because Netflix can have a category, like, which they probably do now still, that says Black Lives Matter, where they have like a bunch of films with like black actors, you know, directed by black people, produced by black people, about black stories. But that doesn't actually really do anything to change and shift the social consciousness, like the paradigm of race relations in this country. So like liberals, besides just moralizing, like they actually produce anti-capitalist, like anti-racist work without performing any anti-capitalist capitalism or anti-racism.
They think they can consume media out of racism, or just like if they show somebody the right piece of media, they won't be racist anymore.
It's completely insane because that's not the way that fucking people think, right? Like if you tell somebody that, like, shit, man, I'm fucking quoting Matt, but like if you tell somebody that like, yo, you're going to get fired from your job for being racist and not participating in this diversity program, why would that want to make people like be anti-racist, right? Like poor white people, it's not going to do it, right? It's the same term with like, and this is a different conversation, but it's the same concept with the term like white privilege, right? Like, do I believe in white privilege? Sure. Yeah, the hell I do. Do I think as a canvasser, as someone who's actually knocked on doors for this ghoulish party, do I think that that's like a helpful thing to say to like white people, that you have privilege because you're white? No, it's fucking not, dude.
No, it's a rhetorical cudgel that will it'll guilt some white people into it, but what it often does is just entrench anyone in whatever ideology that they were already leaning towards anyway. So liberals would be entrenched in
identity politics, and then racists would be entrenched in the fact that like, oh, I'm getting canceled because I'm a racist because this person said I was a racist. And
every
like,
time some dumbass like fucking like sock dem like progressive online who writes for fucking like Jezebel or fucking like some stupid ass fucking like I mean so all these like publications, like these weird. I picked Jezebel, like people are gonna call me fucking misogynist now. No, but like I'm thinking of one person specific that like I don't want to like name out, call out. But like every time you say some stupid shit like white men shouldn't write black characters, a fascist somewhere smiles, right? You're giving them all the ammo that they fucking need, right? Like
it's just so performative too. It's like, oh, like white men aren't just gonna stop writing. Like it's like no one's gonna look at that and be like, "You're right, I should stop."
So you want white people to only write about white people? That sounds like a dangerous slippery slope.
Let's segregate media even
the
further.
Thing that they actually want. The thing that they actually want is like they want. That's not really for the regular people that are reading that. That's for like the execs at Netflix. They want to make sure that they get and. This is like the Ruth Bader Ginsburgism. Libs are obsessed. The upper class libs are obsessed with getting the last promotion. They've worked their way up to a certain point, and they've got whatever systemic issue is keeping them from getting that last gig that they really want. And they're like, listen,
as the world burns, it's like,
yes,
so
the
glad
world,
you got that Netflix deal.
Let me make sure I get this ticket so I can get that deal.
Can I get the Netflix deal before the world sets on fire? Because we got like 10 years left. And if I can get at least one white person to dropping out of the line ahead of me, I can finally get my TV show made.
Which is it's funny because that's every white racist fear about affirmative action.
Yes,
is that it's like them, it's like someone taking their spot, right?
But that is what they want. They're like, give me personally your spot. And that's like if you just follow radical academic Twitter, they all just are so obsessed with like the only civil rights is when they have a better job.
Like this nigga Ibrahim Kendi, ex-Kendi, whatever the fuck his name is,
I'm reading his book right now.
That nigga's trash, bro. Fuck out
I'm literally right here. I'm reading
his books. I mean, his books are good, but his tweets are terrible, and it gives me some like deeper indication and implication of like his actual character. He's just another.
I don't know enough about him to make a judgment, but I'll just trust you
I haven't
on
read the book, and I've only seen most of the tweets I see from him are bad tweets. But I
haven't seen his tweets. Man, that makes me mad because I just got his book. Did I really just give that guy money?
Well, read the book.
I mean, no, it's a good book. Like, read it. Yeah. No, his books are good, dude, and I think they're important. You know, when he talks about like, you know, actually actively being anti-racist and stuff like that. Like, I think that's good, but it's just like. Again, it's the same thing with Ava DuVernay. I mean, if we want to like take it across the aisle and take it back to Louisville, it's like David fucking what I keep saying David Cameron, yo. Like that's like the prime minister from the UK. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what his name is.
Who knows the guy's name?
It's fucking Cameron something, man. You know, but it's like, yo, you're just using this opportunity as a stepping stone to like power and a platform, man. And like black liberal elites are not like, you know, they are guilty of this as well, right?
Yeah.
I would say like I would push back against that and that, like not to play like devil's advocate or whatever, but it's like when I've pointed out like things like not to the extent of like white people shouldn't be writing POC characters, but when I've said stuff like similar to that, like and what I meant was like to have more nuance, but like when I've said stuff similar to that about like comedy, where it'd be like, yeah, white like comedy skews like white male and da 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 da. I've been like accused of being like, oh, you're a failed comedian, so of course you'd say that. Like you're a failed female comic, so of course you'd say that. And it's like I really hate that. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's kind of like a case by case basis because there's people genuinely out there that care about that as an issue. Like because I care genuinely about issues of accessibility and not necessarily representation, but just having like better opportunities for people that are like poor and femme and stuff like that. Like I like when I make those observations, it's not necessarily because like I want the Jimmy Kimmel job. It's like no, I want like no, it's like this is stuff that I observed. I mean, the thing is, like, I don't want those late night talk show gigs. Like, what the fuck would I ever do?
You want the
show
platform,
like that?
but you don't want the platform to be tight.
Yeah, it's like I realized a long time ago that was not going to be the route for me. So I don't think I'm a failure because I gave up on it. It's just that I don't want to participate in that.
Well, yeah. I want to,
but like I feel like there's legit criticism, but it's like, yeah, you do have to kind of differentiate between like the grifters and the people that are genuinely have like a concern about their community that they're involved in, right?
There's a third group that's in there. There's the grifters. There are the people who are genuinely concerned, and there's also like people that want an authentic Takira product. And they've gotten so much Netflix, right? The regular stuff is not good enough for them. They need the pure grain authenticity when they're looking at characters, and I guess it's more neutral. I guess it's fine. It's not like we need more badly written characters,
right? And I do get the argument, and this is another, like, we can do this on another episode about media representation and like the limits of like representation, and also like the fact that, like, you know, when people say certain actors shouldn't portray like marginalized identities and stuff like that, like we can do that in another episode because I think that's totally valid. But like, where did Aaron go? Is he gone? But yeah, like I do think that there are different camps here, and you have to use your best judgment to figure out like what camp you're like looking at, you know?
Okay, well.
Oh, sorry, Aaron, I didn't mean to like grab you back on stream.
Do you want to read Karina's comment that's been sitting here since?
Sure, let's do it.
I had to get off
waiting
Facebook.
for a good time.
I offended my racist privileged friends by posting about them being racist and privileged. This is like the first step when you get woke. I want to go further and be part of the solution. So, let's say you've been on Tumblr for like a month, and you've alienated everyone you know because you've. But well, what is? We've talked about this for a little while. So, number one, what's the solution? Well, a lot of these problems that we're talking about are not your individual problems with the weirdos that are in your Facebook group. So I would say the first thing you do, find other people who are working on this systemic problem. Because first of all, you'll have backup in your Facebook conversations, which is cool. You'll get a bunch of new Facebook friends recommended to you.
And you won't feel like you're being gaslit, like for feeling the things that you're feeling.
Take an hour and build your personal social network, and just talk to other people who are working on the same problems that you're working on, and that's going to solve multiple problems. Because number one, you will listen to people that know more about the subject than you, and you'll sound smart. And number two, you'll get access to like reading, like, you know, the books that have been read about it. Even if you don't read every book, even if you just read like once in a while, it will just make you much more eloquent about these subjects than your friends on Facebook who have never really thought about this stuff in any detail and have just heard things on the radio and they're like, I'm good. What do you mean? I earned this, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I would say in that kind of situation, don't go it along. And look, me and Aaron might not be the right people, and Rara also might not be the right person, because like
I'm not.
Both of us have all of us have relatives that are maybe a little bit more. We're not on that 101 level of like get with the program. Is racism a thing? All of us like have family.
It's tiring. Like it's also just like you have to strike a balance. If this is the work you really want to do, like if this is the work you really want to do of educating people around you, and like this is not just for the newly woke. Like if you are like if you're in like a conservative area and you don't really have a lot of like liberal friends or don't have a lot of leftist friends or whatever, and you want to put in the work to like convert the people you love and care about, by all means do that work, but realize that you should have some boundaries with these people as well. Like, because at the end of the day, if you are pulling your hair out and you are mentally exhausted and you're crying and you feel misunderstood all the time, it's not good for you either. You have to take care of your brain. You have to take care of your emotions. And I know that sounds very liberal, but like it is true, because this is a long struggle. And if you are undergoing the long-term project of pulling people out of ignorant thinking, like you need to pace yourself. Like it's not going to happen in one conversation. It's probably not going to happen in 5, but educating yourself and being like emphatic in your beliefs and being patient will go a long way.
Yeah, we should get a not safe reading list up, man, where we all kind of like, like we should
like a Joe Rogan.
Yeah, we should get that going in like a Google Doc or something. But like,
that's a good idea.
My suggestion, I'll write that down too, Brandon, as well. We're all like, yeah, let's do shit. But no, like my suggestion with that as well too, with family members like that is, yeah, bro. Like first of all, you meet people where they're at. You know what I mean? It can be yeah, as a canvasser again for like I should be canceled for this, but as a canvasser for over 6-7 years for the Democratic Party, I have talked to tens of thousands of people, and I always try to, I don't do it anymore, fuck that, but I have always tried to approach it as, I don't know who's going to be behind this door. I don't know their life. I don't know their lifestyle. I don't know the things that have given them certain political views. But I am going to, by listening, I'm going to intuit some sort of like this is how I'm going to approach you and meet you where you're at. I'm going to meet you halfway, right? And on the contrary, if to a certain point, like again, as a canvasser, when you're talking to that voter at the door and he ain't getting through, you just walk the fuck away, right? Like it's okay to, especially with family members, it doesn't mean you abandon them. I'm not telling you that. It doesn't mean like you don't go over to like for Thanksgiving and Christmas or fucking Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, right? Whatever anymore. But like, I guess what I'm saying is that like, you just like, you don't have to talk about it, because for every family member that's like a fucking chud who you can't get through to, or like some fucking lib, like there's somebody that's going to be at the like checkout line at fucking like your local grocer or something like that, or somebody on the street who's going to listen to you, or sitting next to you on the bus that you can like talk to and reach, right? So like Rara said, right, like I've always said that this is like the never-ending battle, right? This is the never-ending struggle, you know what I'm saying? That's also the name of an Alan Moore Superman comic. It's very, actually, is it? Yes, it is. It's also the man who has everything, but whatever. I'm mixing things up. It doesn't matter. The point is that you meet people where you're at until you can't anymore, right? You don't exhaust yourself any further than that,
Yeah, and you got to remember that whenever you're talking to somebody and where you're talking to them on Facebook, or you're talking to them in person, or whatever it is, you are only like a small slice of that person's life. Unless you're fucking that person, you are not like an overwhelming figure in that person's like mental frame or whatever. You are like a little bit of noise, ultimately. So your goal is not necessarily to convert that person to hit your worldview. And even in a religious organization, you're knocking doors and you're talking to people. Your goal is not to convert somebody to join your religion on the spot, right? Your goal is really to have them talk to you again some other day. So really, when you're talking about like political messaging, your goal is, one, is to keep the line of communication open with that person. If your goal really is to have, conversations with them, and it's also to move them not from a 1 to a 10, but from like a 1 to a 3 or a 1 to a 2. So so a person who might not agree with the protests that are happening in Louisville can still be convinced that a no-knock warrant is a overreach of government power. And so if they get their bristles up about one thing, you can get them to say, well, do you think that the government really has the right to do this kind of action? And if not, isn't that, and first you get them to agree to that, and then maybe the next time you talk, isn't that a worse imposition on your personal liberty than people holding a sign a city away from you? These are all like micro conversations, obviously, but they're just getting that first get your foot in the door with a person, and you don't need to convince them about like systemic racism and shit like that. Like the conversation we're having right now is like a level 10 conversation or whatever. Get them to level 2. It's fine.
Level 10 rhetoric.
And
Gotta put the points in, you know.
No, man.
Thank you, Karina.
Yeah, thank you, Karina. I mean, yo, at the end of the day, man, like our ideological project, man, this is why the Democrats will always fucking lose, because they don't have a long-term ideological project. They have no actual end goal. But as leftists, as communists, socialists, anarchists, our long-term ideological project requires us to actually like people to some degree, right? To try and connect with people to some degree, but to also be stringent in our values and in our positions, right? Mm-hmm. And to understand that, like, bro, you just move on to the next door, right? That's all you do is you move on to the next door, because I am a cautious optimistic, you know what I mean? I'm a cautious optimist, I say, right? I really do think that there are more people out there that would align with our views and our message as a long-term anti-capitalist, like, you know, emancipatory project than those that wish to do us harm, right? So, you know, you just be patient, man. You be patient and you try to meet people where they're at. Like, I used to work at a diner, man. And they used to call me comrade there and shit, because I call everybody I work, like, it's kind of like corny, I guess, but I call everybody I work with comrade. You know, it's part of the political education I do when I used to work in kitchens. And I would go up to like the grill dudes and I'd be like, bro, how much are those pancakes that you make, bro? And he'd be like, oh, like, I don't know, man. Look at the menu, $7. I was like, word.
How much do you get paid an hour?
How many pancakes do you make an hour? And he'd be like, yeah, damn, bro, like probably like 20. I'm like, word, bro. Interesting. How much are you getting paid? And this like,
I'm just asking for no reason.
For no reason. I mean, but this underscores surplus value, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, like, you can literally, like, in reading is, this is why we got to get this not safe amongst reading list too, man, as well. Like, reading is super important. Like, I'm not going to be the theory guy, but if you can apply that theory that you read to everyday conversations with people to make people understand how exploited they are, or if we're talking about a movement like Black Lives Matter, why defunding the police, abolishing ICE, these things are like necessary, like even just ending qualified immunity, you know what I mean? Like, these are just necessary measures. If you can do that, then, like, yeah, man, like, I think that you'll be a good comrade and organizer.
Yeah, this is, I like the turn that this conversation took, because it's like ending on a much more positive place than we started. And I'm not going to be like the Posy Vibes only podcast chick, but like, I think it is.
We need new sincerity. We need
sincerity. I'm not a positive person. I am
vibes. Well, we need. No, I'm a complete nihilist, yo. I'm a Posadist, so fuck all that. But like, no, I'm kidding. I'm not. But like, yo, we need some sincerity on the left. We need a new sincerity. Yeah. It's not a bad thing, yo.
And it doesn't have to be fucking squishy, like kumbaya shit.
Moralization.
We don't have to do that. Yeah. We don't have to do that. Like, but I'm just like, I always tell people this, like, if your ideology is rooted in love and respecting other people and wanting dignity for other people and yourself, like, that should be your compass. Like, that's your North Star, right? Love. Like, that's what it is. And if you ever start doubting that, you got to go back to that and meditate on that and think about it. So I think this is a good place to like wrap this conversation up. I think we're going to end the stream early, but I want everybody to do one last plug before we go. So let's start with Brandon.
Yeah. Let's see. The Promised Land. You can go at the Promised Game on Twitter. That's going to be like really hot, like a week and a half from now. I got to move though, so I'm really working on that and getting myself settled in some new digs. I'm also not safe for wonks at NSF Wonks. Fun place, fun things happening. And what else do I have to plug? You can just Venmo me at Brandon.
Yeah, just give us money straight up. Like, we're not trying to grift you. Like, we need the money. Like,
grift it. All right, that's all I'm doing.
What am I doing again? Oh yeah.
Podcast.
Yeah. My bad. I'm getting kind of drunk now. Okay, so I do have a podcast coming out. It's called A Time of Monsters. It's going to be talking to smart, influential guests on the radical left, journalists, organizers, like, yeah, I'll fucking know, man, like whatever, about our descent into barbarism, the radical left struggle against it. I haven't launched the Patreon yet, and I'm not going to post it, but I just got a patron. I have 2 patrons so far because people have found me out. So if you want to become an early patron, exclusive news, you can go to patreon.com/AdamPod, like Adam Bomb. And yeah, that's what I got going on. And besides that, just follow my like drunk, high, angry tweets on Twitter at Posadas_trap.
Yeah, the Chiron on the bottom is going at it. But yeah, I'll do my plugs after I see you guys off. But thank you so much for talking with me. And I'm looking forward to having y'all on as a guest again in the future and being a guest on your podcast as well.
Oh, I'm already setting that up, dude. Like based on the conversation that we had like earlier today, you and Merrick, I'm like, yo, like the first
I'm about to do the whole podcast circuit again.
I also want you to come on and talk about Star Trek. So we might need to do like 2 separate episodes because I think Star Trek is
about Octavia Butler too.
I think Star Trek is fascistic, actually. Like they fly around in ships. They're Navy. They're scientists that fly, military scientists with guns on their ships. And I've watched like, I'm a Trekkie, but like they're I don't know how comradely they are when you look beneath the veil, you know.
That's the take.
It just occurred to me, Aaron. We're gonna be on Kenzo Shibata's podcast on we're gonna be on Kenzo Shibata's live stream on Sunday.
Wait, that's this Sunday?
I will retweet it. I think I'll retweet it. I think it's like October.
Are you serious? Is this Sunday?
I fucking don't remember. This is not. It's written down somewhere, but it's called "Pardon the Ignorance," and it's kind of like a play on "Pardon the Interruption." Yeah. And we're gonna be debating with some other big. I want to say like progressive account. I don't know who this person is really, but we're supposed to be like debating. No. I'm very, I don't know what to expect from it. I might just show my ass. I don't know. But we have that. So
we gonna like fuck that.
I gotta check the DM dude, and figure out when.
Fuck that dude, bro. Like, you know, I'm gonna get drunk and embarrass the fuck out of that dude, man, because this shit is fucking insane.
Yeah.
Whatever, man.
Okay, so thank y'all so much, and we'll see y'all again. And I'm gonna do my plugs as soon as I leave y'all. Peace. All right. So thank you guys so much. I'm gonna start saying y'all. I'm trying to use more gender neutral pronouns lately, but thank y'all for joining the podcast, joining the stream. It was an awesome conversation. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at IslandGoth. I also have a Patreon. Yay! Patreon.com/IslandGoth. And I don't have any episodes yet of the streams we did. You can actually just watch those straight on Twitch, twitch.com/XRayIsland. But if you want to become a Patreon patron and pledge, I have levels at the $1, $3, $5, and $10. And really, like, I'm not, I don't have Chapo money. I don't have, I work 2 jobs, and this is kind of like what I'm considering like my baby, my project, my passion project. But I would love to make this something that I can upgrade, and I'd love to provide better content for y'all and be able to focus more on content. So if you can kick in $1, $3, $5, $10, whatever, even $1 really makes a difference. And I post bonus content every week, and I post stuff that I've done before. So it's kind of like an archive of everything I've worked on and everything I'm going to work on. So if you want to go ahead and chip into that, that's cool. You can also just straight up send me money, Cash App or Venmo. It's hashtag sci-fi babe 69. SCIFIBABE 69 on Cash App or Venmo. It's all going to, I'm funneling it right back into the stream and podcast. Behind me, you can see my setup. I have some box lights. I have a janky ass photography setup. I have a green screen somewhere back there that I have to learn how to use, but I'm going to be making video content as well. And I'm going to be also eventually upgrading my rig to do to be able to have a gaming PC so I can do gaming streams, so we can talk politics while we play Fortnite or Animal Crossing or whatever the hell else we want to do. So thank y'all so much. And tune in next week at the same time. It's going to be 6 to 8 from now on. And if you are interested in being on the show, or you just want to get find out more, just go ahead and at me on Twitter, or shoot me a message on Patreon or whatever. My DMs aren't open on Twitter for a good reason, but you can just always at me on stuff that you think I might be interested in, or suggest people that you'd like to see on the stream and see, or topics that we want to discuss. So thank you all so much, and you have a great night. Please take care of yourselves, love each other, let that be your North Star. And I'll see you next week. Bye.